Peace, family. We back at you again, man, for part two of of the series. I got my guys with me. I got Marvin with me. I got Black Ice TV with me. I see we got Great Black Shark in the house. We got my brother Riz in the house. We got Christopher Johnson. We got Kenny Conjo. Well, we're gonna finish off. We're gonna finish up where we left off yesterday.
You have a feedback coming in, George.
I got feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that coming from? All right, hold on for a second. Let me see what that is.
You know what? You might not be. It might be me. Like I turned my YouTube on and the volume came back up, so it might not be you. So keep going.
Okay. I know we got to stop Richie from dancing in the background. I know I played some of that. I played some of that reggae music, man. I know he back there dancing.
You don't know. I am the sun as well. Trust me.
He out there skipping in the sun. I put some of that David Marley on. He said, "Oh," some of that high vibration music.
Gotta lift the spirits before we get into this information.
Yeah. So hold on. I'm drinking my herbs. It's kind of hot, so I'm trying to get myself together over here.
Yeah, you're gonna be sweating during the stream.
We got Kenny Conjo in the house. Make sure we got Jeremy as awakened. We got John Doe. Make sure I get everybody before we start. Give everybody a shout out. Okay, we got Christopher. So for all the people that was asking me, do I got CASHAPP? I got the CASHAPP set up now. You can see in the banner. George making 1 or 2 is money sign George making 2 is my CASHAPP now. Everybody was telling me to get a CASHAPP, so they finally showed me how to do it. So my CASHAPP is in the description box too. Money sign George making 2. All right, so let's yeah, thanks, Riz. Yeah. I had to come with some Immoral Technique, the Spanish version. That was for Kenny Conjo. The Spanish version that was for my brother Kenny. And then I had to come back with the reggae. And that was for brother Richie. Yeah, so all right, so we're going through this. So we've been talking about running a series where we basically been talking about so many different things going on in conjunction with this coronavirus. And we, like I said before, we've talked about Wuhan. We talked about Dr. Lieber, basically the professor or scientist that was working over in Harvard. He's originally from Philadelphia. He was arrested. We talked about Dr. Willing that was arrested and later died in custody. We talked about the cover-ups. We talked about different operations that's went on in America where they put deadly viruses on the people. We talked about the committee of 300. We talked about these oligarch families. We talked about it all. And what we've been saying was we've never said that black people can't catch the corona or the coronavirus isn't real. That's not me. That's not our stance. Our stance is this government has always sanctioned viruses on the people. This government has always sanctioned violence on Americans and U.S. policy around the world. So when we say when we talk about this virus. And then we talk about all the atrocities and the historical things that this country and British and U.S. intelligence has done. Why would we be surprised? We talked about the depopulation control edict, where we showed you guys where in the 40s, President Roosevelt commissioned George Merck to create a biological weapon. We showed the proof. So we've been going in on this kind of stuff, man, for a minute now to lead up to, all the stuff we're talking about now. Now we're going into nanotechnology and transhumanism. Why are we going into nanotechnology and transhumanism? Well, the reason why we're going into nanotechnology and transhumanism, because this stuff is going on right in the back door. See, you guys far too many times. Thanks, Jeremy, for the $10 cash app. Thank you very much. You guys far too many times go into homes. Riz, this is what Riz, a lot of our people do. Kenny, Great Black Shark. You know what a lot of our people do? We go into 6-bedroom homes and we only go into 2 rooms. And then we try to turn around and act like we know what we're talking about when we never explored the whole house. We went in 2 rooms of the house, but there's 4 other rooms, and then you got a basement, you got an attic, you got a kitchen, a living room. We went into 2 rooms. And then we turn around and act like we know what we're talking about. And that's why we stay in so much trouble and we're so unprepared for things, and we don't know how to attack and who to attack. We actually side with the enemy trying to fight the enemy. Do you know that? You understand what I'm saying, GBS? We actually side with the enemy while trying to fight the enemy because we don't even know who the enemy is. So I'm going to bring in Brother Marvin, man, before we share the screen and get off into it. I don't know what happened to Richie. He fell off for a minute. But we want to say something, Marvin, before we get off into it.
They always be dumping off on people. The internet connection be getting them when we're ready to go in.
Yeah, I know, right?
What's going on, y'all? Yeah, so like George said, there is a lot. There's a base level of understanding every human being is supposed to be born with. In a lot of so-called third world countries, at the very least, they're born with a certain semblance of how to take care of their families by the time they reach like 13 and 14. So you're supposed to have a base knowledge on health, technology, money, real estate, food. You're supposed to have a base knowledge where you can take care of yourself. You put yourself in a position where you'll be fine. Anything above that is supposed to be for the experts. So we have to have experts in our community. So, okay, you should be able to recognize something is wrong with your body, even though you've been doing everything right. And when you can't tell what it is, that's when you go get help. But it's never supposed to be something as simple as, you know, I'm trying to think of something simple. Like I got plaque on my teeth, so I need to go see the doctor. No, you need to brush your teeth. Now, if your gums are turning hot red, then that may be something beyond the average thing you should be able to detect. But we're getting up in arms over little things we should know. Like there's certain ways you're supposed to take care of money, yourself, your community, and that keeps majority of the problems out of your mind and out of the way. So with that being said, the only other thing I want to catch people up to is, you know, because George heard me talking about it earlier. Yes, we do know that Black people, white people, all people can catch the coronavirus, but please don't let the current news coming out make you think that all of a sudden Black people are in the most danger when it comes to the coronavirus. Like, read those articles they're putting out. They're skewing the numbers to make it seem like we're the ones in the most danger, and we're not. I mean, if you want real proof, just go look up all the statistics over there in Africa versus all other places, and look at other equatorial climates versus all other places. People want to leave the race argument out. Race is science. So don't let anybody try and take that out of the argument. So with that being said, don't fall for the hype. Read all the articles in front of you and get the real deal. All right, so we're going to get off into it.
Yeah, and before we start, I don't know if Great Black Shark or Kenny Conjo might. I was trying to figure out how they be doing a Cash App link. I don't know how to do it. I see people with they had a link off in the description, whatever. They actually create a link for it so people could just hit the link. But I'm just learning all this shit, man. Because
I do it for things like PayPal, because PayPal is long-winded. I have Venmo too. Venmo is, if you're talking about removing the issues that the other two got, Venmo is best. They have good security. The money transfer is good, and they don't do a lot of blocking when your numbers get up too high in your Cash App or your PayPal. Like PayPal one time made me wait. It was like nearly $2,000. They made me wait nearly 2 weeks for it.
Damn. Well, you know, I never came on here to do this shit for the money, man. But I thank everybody, man. That I want to say this because I want to say this to my people, man. Before I even start, just give me like 3 minutes, man, just to say this to the people that have been supporting me for a long time. I want to thank y'all for the money that you guys do spend, but I want y'all to understand something with me. I had never made any money off of YouTube when I first came on because I never did it for the money, And you know, I would spend hours of research and time, and my wife was like, "Well, you should get compensated for something." And I never looked at it like that. So when I seen people making money, I used to always wonder, well, like, how they making money? And I would talk to O'Shea. I would talk to O'Shea about it. He would explain certain things to me. But what I've noticed was, oh, thank you, Kenny Conjo, for the Cash App. And what I noticed was, Great Black Shark. The reason why you see so much fuckery in Black YouTube now that I see a lot of people never used to having anything. They never really had any money, or they don't got a good job, or they just don't have a good source of income coming in. So you see these platforms where people bang on black men bang on black women. They banging on each other. They promote fuckery because they get what I want to call it, Mark, what I'm looking for the word. They get an audience. They get an audience of people that come and support that and pay them for it. So they say, well, damn, I got $200 super chat, $100 the other thing, Cash App. Man, I got all that. Man, this easy talking nigga shit. I'll just promote nigga shit.
You know what Phil Valentine used to say? He used to say, do not make me your icon or your leader. One of the things that's very important to a society, they used to do this in the past. You never make the person who wants to lead people the leader. You make the person who's qualified, who could care two shits about it. Because they the person who don't want it so bad, but they got the mind to be able to do it. But they're not going to make their living based on trying to keep themselves being the authority figure. Like, you can't do this without me. You know, it's the essence of like a narcissistic guy with a woman. You can't do this shit without me. You ain't nothing. You know, we be seeing movies like that. You know, that's the problem. Like when you love, I think we mentioned this yesterday, but when you love what you do, you're going to do it regardless. The reason we support people like George and different people who are out here giving out good information, who are skilled at certain things, is because if the status quo breaks down on us, you will have set up a foundation for people who are good at things to pick up where you left off. So if I'm good enough at health, George is good enough at history and community building and organizing and getting people the proper info that they need to continue living their lives, you will be glad that you put them in a position to be able to handle the process necessary to keep us up to where we need to be. And you should be doing the same for your skilled area. You're going to need carpenters, plumbers, people who can grow food, people who can do real estate, people who can forage for materials and stuff like that. Because if the government says we don't have the infrastructure to maintain it, you'll be glad you put your energy, your time, and your currency in the people who could do it, because they'll have your back like you had theirs, and they won't hold it over your head because they never did.
Right. So yeah, so I just want to thank the people that support me and whatever you guys send me. Thank you, because what I'm trying to create with me and Marvin with this urban nerds thing, any money that I get, I actually want to put back into the people anyway. I want to put it back into the people. But I was working out yesterday, and I really thought about it. I said, damn, like I set up the super chat one day and people sent me some money. I said, damn, this is why it's so much fuckery. Because people get money just to act like a nigga. And I said to myself, I said, I would never do that. It's not even in my DNA, just like to come on and just mislead the people or drive the people wrong and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, again, thank y'all, man, for, especially in a time like this when people ain't working, man, and people can send a couple dollars in, man. It's very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. So let's get off into it. I don't know where the hell Richie went.
Maybe they shot his connection down too, because remember earlier I got booted, like the connection went to hell and I got booted out. So
hold on, let me send my brother Moses the link, because he keeps saying he not getting it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, while y'all out there, make sure you come up on your base understand how politics works, because if the politics are going bad, you need to know how it's supposed to actually work, so that when you do it in your own community, it actually looks pretty good. You need to know who's going to take care of what's going to be the checks and balances. Like, actually see this thing for what it's supposed to be, and not how people who are doing it wrong are treating it. See it for what it's supposed to be. And if you were in control, what do you believe needs to be fixed, and how would the entire system work when there's a bunch of people with different mentalities on how the world is supposed to be for them? That's where the dilemma is. Remember, the purpose of a culture and a way of living is to reduce the amount of uncomfortabilities as possible
Okay,
without
real
infringing
quick.
on
So
people's
we got
happiness.
coming across the airways here in Philadelphia, coronavirus later the rest of the year here in
Hold on,
Philadelphia.
hold on, say that
I
again.
see something that Philadelphia schools are to remain closed for the rest of the year.
Oh shit! No
I
wonder
see
why they
something.
took. They knew that. Remember, they took unemployment till December 31st. They probably knew that shit.
Yeah, hold on for a second, because Brother Riz put something in the chat and I let it go by the wayside.
Yeah, keep going.
I gotta find it. Something that he put in about Philadelphia being a hot spot now. Shit.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, let me find it. Damn, Riz, where'd that thing go, man? He said, well, Philadelphia now is, they're looking at Philadelphia as the hot spot for the coronavirus now. So now I guess we got to be careful. The best way of natural. Wait, was it Riz or somebody put that in there? I seen it. I can't find it right this second.
Well, chances are I'm not gonna have that job that I had, George. Chances are I'm not gonna have it anymore.
Oh, here it is, right here.
To the end of the year is like that's job changing stuff.
Yeah, so they just put Philadelphia in the crosshairs. The White House said they're looking at Philadelphia very heavy as a viral hotspot. So if you in the Philadelphia area, here I got to report this as it's coming. And my sister and my brother Riz just put some stuff in. So hold on, let me. You know how you know what's funny, y'all that's watching me now. You know, you guys that come out and watch, and it's so hard and disheartening. Just think of people, you guys is watching me now that may be content creators, or those of you guys that may watch people like us that's content creators, and you tell your family members about it, and it's disheartening because it's so hard to get your family just to watch and listen to what you say, to get this information. You know, it's hurtful voice of reason when you can tell somebody you don't know something and they listen to what you're saying, and then you guys go and get edified, but you tell it to your direct family members and they don't listen to shit you say.
Yeah.
You know, and we all go through that. Riz know what I'm talking about. I'm sure Great Black Shark know what I'm talking about. Asiatic black man, like, you know, you go drop some truth on your family, and you tell them certain things, but they're just not up to listening. They're not listening to what you're saying, and it's hurtful, especially with all of this stuff going on right now. You try to explain it to them, but they just see you as just, oh, George, that's just George talking, and they don't take you seriously. That's what your family members do. And you know, it's disheartening because as we go on this ride and this journey in life, unfortunately, like, not everybody's going to get it. Everybody ain't going to make it, and some of it is going to be our family members that we love. They're just not going to get it. That's just the way it's going to go. So let's with no further shenanigans, because we don't want to be long today. I'm just sending out these links for people to come, not to come onto the panel, but some people that I know that's actually in my city. I'm sending it out. Yeah, it's part two. I'm sending it out because I want people to watch this stuff, man.
I'm not surprised Philadelphia got put on though, because we're one of those places where the city, compared to the space that there is to maneuver, there's a lot of people in it crunched in. You know, 1.6 million people in the space that Philadelphia is pretty tight. It's not tighter than New York or perhaps Chicago. Chicago 2.5 million. Do you know the numbers of New York in the city?
Like 10 million. Like 10 million.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and we're more than 1.6 million people. That's just because everybody don't get counted. So
yeah, that's true. They counted based on consensus. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're stacked on top of each other. So, but I knew Philly was going to be next on there because New York City is the epicenter, and we're only an hour and a half away from New York City.
I'm surprised we didn't get put up earlier. Like, I thought when they mentioned all the hotbed locations, we should have saw Chicago a long time ago. We should have saw Philly a long time ago. It's like they withheld on that.
Well, I feel like
credit though. The governor, I think, was very good at our response.
Yeah, I feel like New York City was targeted, and right after New York City was targeted, they came right. I knew it was going to come here. It would be impossible to be in New York City and then not hit Philadelphia, where Philadelphia is an hour and a half away. So, and I've been going out to the park every day and running, and then, seeing stuff like this, because, the way I look at it, for me, the coronavirus is real. What I'm trying to do is try to teach brothers and sisters what they should and shouldn't be doing, because to me, the devil is real. The devil is doing what he always do. So, we got to be up on it. So I'm finished now. So let's just get off into it.
I think Riz put up that status because he wanted to show his tricep off.
Riz, show his muscles.
Wanted to show that tricep off, Riz.
All right, let's share the screen. Let's get off into it. All right, equals nothing. There we go. All right. Hold on, let me take that out. There we go. All right. So we've been talking about why is this still there? That's great. I want to take that down. Hold on a second. Hey, can you still see that the yeah, let me hold on. But can you still see the Asiatic black man and stuff there? That banner there?
Yeah, it's still on the screen.
Let me take that off. So y'all
big up to the chat room, people. Big up everybody. Just to let everyone know, I had Minister Inky on my channel. Yes, we spoke about the coronavirus. We spoke about certain 5G angles. So go and check that out if you haven't seen it already. Dropping good information as always. Thank you, lads.
Yeah, Bryce, swing over there right after this one.
All right, there we go. All right, we down. So let me reshare again. Yeah, because I want people to be able to see the full screen. Black Ice TV finally stopped dancing. You know when you play that that Caribbean reggae music and that Spanish music, Caribbean people, they dance for 2 hours on a song.
I know, right?
Bomba click.
Just so you guys know, for everybody out there in the chat, if you guys are around tomorrow morning, I'll go by what time George wants to do it, but if you're around at the same time, come on in, because we're gonna have a chat about we're gonna get some simple health information out of the way, and simple other things, like if you guys are gonna buy food or try and grow food, like I'm gonna try and give you guys quite a bit about that information. So
he's going to do a presentation tomorrow telling y'all what y'all Negroes need to do. That's what y'all Negroes need to do. All right, let's okay, so let's get up. I'm gonna start off, Marvin. All right.
Okay.
All right. So now this one here is genetically engineered immune cells fight off deadly viruses. Now, again, I'm gonna keep hammering this point home, because I want you guys to understand. Now, I just showed you guys that what they were the White House was saying that Philadelphia now is going to be a hot spot, a viral spot. So unfortunately, some people may pass away. I hope it's not me or none of my family members, or I hope nobody passes away. But they don't do this kind of stuff for nothing. It's about population control. Whoever's body is not strong enough against this bacteria, virus, or proteins that's being put out, if you die, then you're part of that population control. That's how population control eat it. We're dealing with demons. So, and because we're dealing with demons, we have to understand what's going on. So now, what they're not telling you is this genetically engineered immune cell search and stuff that they're doing to fight off deadly viruses. I have to ask the people watching right now, why aren't you guys seeing this on TV? So now I have to ask my guys here, Brother Marvel Richie, have y'all seen one news conference or something about genetically modifying cells for to reverse deadly viruses? Have y'all seen that? Has CNN or NBC covered that?
Surely not. Nope, not of recently, not of any time. I may have missed
So,
it, but definitely not recently.
so I asked Wax Dog, have you, Kenny Conjo, Great Black Shark, anybody in the chat room, somebody say something, everybody in the chat room watches, have y'all seen CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, NBC News? Have you seen anybody talk about genetically engineered cells to fight off viruses? Somebody respond in the chat room. Have you seen it anywhere right now? Because this is an article from May of 2019, so it's not even a year off, right? And we got articles that's more recent. Have you guys seen anything in conversation like this? And one would have to ask, and if the answers are no, Waxdog says no, sir. If the answers are no, then Voice of Reason says no. We would have to ask why. Why is this being hidden or not told to the American public? So only those that says China is dealing with a new strain of the Rona right now. You know how black people are. We cut shit in half. Coronavirus is too long for black people. We say Rona and then we say Ro. He got that Ro, man. You know how black.
Hey, look, they know how it is. We work off rhythm. People want us to be politically correct, but we know how to shrink and shorten and add rhythm to things. So it makes more sense. He has that Corona. No, yo, man, he got that Rona. Roll off the tongue better.
Yeah, he got the Ro. And he got the Ro fan. Yep. All right, let's get off into it. Genetically engineered immune cells fight off deadly viruses in mice. Researchers may have demonstrated a novel way to protect us from some of the world's deadliest viruses by genetically engineering immune cells to make more effective antibodies. They have defended mice from potentially lethal, listen to this, lethal lung virus. So I had to go to my expert. Brother Marv, that coronavirus, what does it affect?
It affects the lungs and the respiratory system, right? The respiratory system in general, because they call it SARS, or you can call it SARD, SARD. So let me ask you a question. So in May of 2019, was the coronavirus in America to the point where we was on lockdown yet? Nope.
So why are they talking about potentially lethal lung viruses back then, and nobody paid no attention to this?
Because people naturally don't pay attention to things like this. They don't want no parts.
The same strategy could work in humans against diseases for which there are no vaccines. It's a huge breakthrough, says immunologist James Voss, Scripps Research Institute in San Diego, California, who wasn't connected to the study. Vaccines typically contain a disabled I should have let you read this.
Microbial, you good.
Microbial invader or shards of its molecules. They stimulate immune cells known as B cells to crank out antibodies that target the pathogens.
Stop right there.
Okay.
Because this next line is going to be very important, and I'm gonna let you have that. But right before it, you see how it says vaccines typically contain a disabled microbial invader or shards of its molecules. Now, anyone who ever studied the vaccine issue that happened in Disney, a bunch of people were there. I think it's like 100, 115, something like that was there. A bunch of people caught the shit. 12 people did not get vaccine and none of them caught it. It's called vaccine viral shedding. People who get a vaccination can shed DNA and pass that DNA to other people, causing them to get sick. But the people who did not have the vaccine, all of them did not catch it. So read that next line you were headed to.
No, you take over because I read the other one. You read because this is with the medical stuff.
All right, so check out the next line. Not everyone who receives a vaccine gains protection. See, it was more in this article than meets the eye. However, some patients' antibodies aren't up to snuff, which is what you were talking about earlier. Build your hopefully those with strong immune systems be all right. For instance, and researchers haven't been able to develop vaccines against some microbes, such as HIV, And the respiratory syncytial virus, weird. Respiratory syndrome viruses is RSV, but that's a different one. Respiratory syncytial virus, which causes lung infections mainly in children and people with impaired immune systems. There you go, right? But the funny thing is, you notice most children are not catching the coronavirus. There's not a high percentage of children getting it, but then they're the most protected. We don't know what it would be like if it was a free for all system where everybody was running around. In the study, immunologist Justin Taylor of the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington, and colleagues tested whether they could engineer B cells to recreate an antibody already known to be potent against RSV. In the DNA snipping CRISPR genome editing system, they cut one of the antibody genes in mouse B cells. Okay, so you guys are caught up. B cells are one of the white blood cells in your body that becomes mature when it figures out what the antigen is necessary to deactivate and get rid of a virus. So they're not necessarily the killers right away. They're the ones who kind of like run around. It's kind of like if somebody said, yo, it's a killer walking around your house and it's 100 people in your house. You're walking around looking for the signs that the person is the killer. And when you find them, you become mature, meaning you know what the deal is. You go alert everybody else, and those who are fighters will start to fight that specific person. So B cells are a part of that cascade, and you need your lymph nodes to be strong for that. Okay, do some jumping jacks when y'all exercise. That'll work out your lymph system. All right, let's keep going. We're talking where we're at. B cells. Scientists could also. Where's the part about B cells in the mice? That's where I was at. All right, let's start here. Okay, here it is. Mouse B cells. The scientists then used a virus to ferry a gene for the anti-RSV antibody into the cells. After the inserted, they meant to say they. After they inserted genes, after the inserted gene settled into position into the sliced DNA, it began to work. And the B cells churned out the RSV targeting antibody. Notice they say it churned it out. Once it found out what it was, it started saying, yo, antibodies everywhere. Start targeting these people, mark them for destruction. Using the same approach, the scientists could also prod human B cells to create antibodies against 3 other viruses, including HIV and one type of influenza virus. We got amazingly high efficiencies, says Taylor, with up to 60% of cells manufacturing the added antibody higher than in previous studies that attempted to engineer the B cells. To determine whether transplanting the modified B cells could prevent infections, the scientists injected the genetically engineered B cells or control cells into mice and then exposed the animals to RSV. 5 days later, the lungs of the control mice teemed with the virus, but the lungs of mice that had received the engineered cells contained almost no RSV. The researchers report today in Science Immunology. And
so what is RSV?
RSV, they were saying it earlier. It's that syncytial virus. Where's that term they use? Respiratory syncytial virus. So SYNCYTIAL virus. But when I see respiratory virus, that's the type of virus it is. So I kind of omit that middle word since I don't know. I guess that's just for the sake of identification. But
this is a respiratory virus.
Exactly. It's a type of respiratory virus. So RSV is respiratory syncytial virus is the term for it. So we know it affects the lungs. So what I was talking about the B cells earlier, when the virus came chugging along and started invading the lungs, if the B cells were mature, they know there's lung tissue and there's a bunch of other stuff in the lungs, and then there's the invader in the lungs. Once they know what the invader looks like, they start sending out antibodies that tag all the invaders. And then you got other white cells, blood cells called natural killer cells and stuff like that. Once they see they see that marker on there that says they don't belong, they can destroy them. And what do natural killer cells do? It's like they walk around with a needle. And when they walk around and they poke you with that needle, it causes that cell to destroy itself so that virus can't replicate and pass anymore. Once you destroy all of those, it's a bunch of debris left around. So other white blood cells called macrophages or big eaters come around and eat up the debris. Any of the debris that can be broken down and used in your body will take it. And anything that don't is dumped in the lymph nodes and you expel it as mucus.
So when we look at the article like this from last year, from 2019, and we see the that they actually trying to develop antibodies to cure you of AIDS and all these different things. With the virus right now, how come this stuff is so secretive? And I mean, even though that they report it in articles and stuff like that and in journals, how come the American people don't have no knowledge of this? How come when you see people running for inaugurations, or people trying to not inaugurations, people trying to run for office, they don't talk about this kind of stuff?
They can't, because it's military based. So in the beginning, the military gets it, learns how to defend against it, and then they become the front runners. That's the people who are going to. That's one of the people who be sitting at the table, basically consulting the president. Basically, the president won't even know everything, because the president is just a speech and a figurehead. So they make a decision off the info they're given. So they don't have to be given all info. They just have to be given the results of a decision they make. Hey,
Yeah.
president, if you don't lock this down, that could happen. If you do lock it down, that could happen. If the president wants to say, well, what's this thing all about? They're only going to get the data from that person that's easy to understand. Well, here's the problem, sir. This virus has this, that, and the third. We don't have a cure for it, quote unquote, right? Because cure is a specific term. You don't have to have a cure to have a solution. You see what I mean? So they can use certain terms to tell the president, we don't have a cure. It's very dangerous. It'll lock up the economy. So I would suggest you go this way. What do you want to do, Mr. President?
Hold on real quick. Let me let Richie back in, because I want you to. Because when I look at the title of this, it says genetically engineered, right? But what's the difference between genetically engineered and genetically modified?
Okay, so let's say that, and let's hope you guys understand me. If you don't, I'll put in the details for you. Let's say that they find out that there is a gene in your body that expresses itself, and that gene is 2,000 base pairs long. Now, when I say base pairs, I want you to imagine a ladder, and the rungs on the ladder that you actually step on and to climb higher, it's just it's a horizontal bar that's made of two parts, and those two parts can be separated. And when you separate the two parts, the ladder is the DNA, and if you separate the two parts by cutting the ladder in half, that's the RNA. So if I say it's 2,000 base pairs, I can snip out 500 base pairs and move them in different. I can literally take 500 and reshuffle them, or I can add in 500 genetically engineered ones, and now I have a modified gene, because I modified a portion of it to look different. But if I have a completely synthetic version, I build the entire gene from scratch on my own. So those 2,000 base pairs, I put them together on my own to make my own synthetic gene. It's going to be made with slightly different materials, is what the problem is. Kind of like if you okay, here's vanilla bean and here's vanilla flavoring, right? So I give you the vanilla bean, you peel open the bean with a knife and you scrape out the vanilla bean and you have pure vanilla bean. But if I give you anal scrapings from a beaver, I'm giving you synthetic vanilla flavoring, because it tastes like this, but it's not that. You see what I mean? So you got your synthetic, and then you have your natural.
So genetic engineering is synthetic, and modification is
reshuffling, basically.
Okay, because so
what about food? I can give you an easier example using food. So
real quick though, before
yeah, go ahead.
When I look at genetically engineered immune cells to fight off deadly viruses, what are they really saying? They're saying that we can genetically engineer your cells where you don't get these viruses?
They're genetically engineering false synthetic cells that will fight it off. So for instance, we know a virus can be made of fat, sugars, and proteins. Now, protein is a misnomer, because a protein is a formulation of amino acids with a metal and different things.
I want to put it in layman's terms where the people understand, because I know how you go in.
I like to kind of use an example so people understand what the doctors are saying, and sometimes with layman's terms you have to give it to them without using doctor terminology at all. So I'll put it to you this way. Let's use food. With the food, if I take an apple seed and say the apple is too bitter, and then I take a mango seed because the mango is sweet, I can shave pieces of the mango. Like I can literally file the mango seed or cut a piece of it off, and then do the same thing with the apple seed, and then bind them together, like press them together and bury them together. And now I'll get a sweeter apple. That's modification. That's what we call hybrid. That's a type of modification. But if I genetically engineer, I literally scan and look at the seed and see what it's made up of and find equivalent materials and put it together myself.
Oh, all right. See, and I'm glad you said that. So now I make a replica of what the real is.
Right.
So then the question stands then. Because see, I wanted to really put this out just in case you get the naysayers to try to say George don't know what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. That's why I got you here where we can really. So when I say, why isn't this being told? Because so I'm correct when I'm saying that right now they got this virus out here, they got you afraid, but they behind the scenes doing all kinds of genetically engineering bodies.
Yep. So what happens is now your body is going, whatever comes into the body, remember the body is frequency and rhythm. If you walk into a club and they playing a nice rhythm, you're going to fall in line because that's what you came there for. So they playing, what was the song you was playing for Richie earlier?
Traffic.
All right. So you walk in, you jamming to that joint. All of a sudden somebody show up in the club with a different beat, but you like it. But the music in the club is louder, but you can hear that other beat in there. So you start telling everybody in the club to pay attention to the new beat. It's interfering with the other beat that's supposed to be there. Cells have a tendency to try and match the beat to anything that comes along. But if the heart is putting out the stronger beat, even though it's a smaller one in there, it's disturbing the peace. And that's going to cause a fight. Because some people are saying, I like this, and some people are saying, I don't.
So, but let me ask you, but with them doing this now, genetically engineering the cell, are they taking out the normal cells and replacing it with the engineered cell?
Nope, they're just in most cases, I'll say, because there might be a case like that, but in most cases I see, they're flooding the body with more of what it already has, but a synthetic form of it.
So, okay, so the reason, would I be wrong to say the reason why UNESCO and it was illegal in the US because they didn't know what the outcome of it would be, so they had to wait some time to see how the mice and the animals that they tried it on, how it worked over a year or 2 years over time.
Mm-hmm.
So now they get a chance to see. So that's why I'm saying, as we go, as we finish up on this article and we move on to the Chinese scientists that genetically modified those embryos, mm-hmm. or genetically engineered, either modified or engineered the embryos for those babies to be born, basically designer babies. They was doing this stuff years ago, but the question I'm saying now is, if they know this, right?
Right.
And we got this disease, this virus out here that's killing people, why not start bringing this to the forefront and talk about it? Like, what's the agenda? That's why.
The agenda is total economic control, because on the military level, they're going to get it regardless. There's already a fight. My wife actually worked for the Department of Defense. So I already know they have ways of creating their own funding for things. You can penny shave to do that. You can half-cent shave. You can say, yo, for every dollar that comes in, give me a half a cent. And eventually that turns in, with all the people in the United States and around the world shelling money in, it's easy to build up an entire thing. The biggest part of the United States economy of money being spent is Department of Defense, because what's the point of having freedom if you can't defend it? Makes sense. So they're going to get it first. Once the public starts to get wind of all the information available, different companies are competing in the scientific level like we are, except they're kind of unified. It's kind of like how Verizon and Comcast compete, but there's always an area where they don't compete. Verizon might say, I got all the towers, so therefore I'm the most expensive. Well, Comcast might latch on to my towers, so they're a little bit cheaper and they use more of my towers. So they can claim they have a more vast, broad amount of offerings in terms of what they give. But we're going to be the most expensive because when you get ours, it's higher quality.
Right.
See what I mean? It's still a competition going on. So one person's like, I'm going to make the vaccine first. I'm going to make it first. But they all want to make a vaccine. So it's unified in that matter. But if you're the front runner, you make money. And even if the other companies lose, they can say, all right, they came up with the formula. So we're going to have to pay them to use their formula and put our name on it. So it's a win-win situation.
Let me say this to the people. The reason why we're having this conversation, and I'm doing it this way now, because I don't think that people fully understand the difference between engineering and genetically modifying. And like you said, genetically modified foods as opposed to genetically engineered foods.
Yep.
Genetically modified cells as a genetically engineered cells. And yesterday we talked about them doing CRISPR to heal a blind man. They doing CRISPR. They did a CRISPR thing on a woman that had leukemia, and they healed her leukemia. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to figure out these viruses that's coming up out of nowhere and people are dying, because we remember some of this stuff was still illegal in the US, or they were, as we're going to show today, they was trying to find ways, like the genetically modified babies is illegal to still do in the US in some ways, but to genetically modify sperm is legal. And we gotta really break that down and explain to people what's going on behind the scenes and what's about to be pushed, because now they got you afraid. Yep. That's the way I want to give it the information, because I know, you know, when we bring the urban nerds on, sometimes our guys get to talking, and you know, we have you guys that have conversations amongst each other, and some of our people will be like, man, I don't know what the hell they talking about. Yep. So what I try to do is put it in layman's term of saying, you're afraid right now. There's a virus killing people. But let me show you what they're doing in the back door that's going to come in the next 2 years that they're not telling you about, why they're allowing people to die. So this is what Brother Marvin is trying to explain, and I just have to give it in layman's term.
Let's hit the Chinese. We pretty much got all of the juice from this article. Even if I keep reading it, it's more of the same. So you want to get the juice of the Chinese scientists going, because that's going to add into it, and we can keep tagging on data.
Okay.
So you got this one, Chinese scientists. Is it we doing the genetically? Which one we doing?
All right, we're gonna go here and then here and then go to the sperm, because it's going to tie in together. So we'll go here and
Chinese scientists.
So what all right. So this is what I did. 2 years ago. Me and Solomon actually. And we talked about this Chinese scientist who genetically modified embryos, and a woman, and twins were born. I think the father, if I'm not mistaken, had AIDS, and he genetically modified these babies where they would be born resistance to certain diseases, which was unethical and illegal in China. He was jailed for it, right? So let's get off into it though. It says, and I'm gonna show you how I tie this together on how you guys are not being told certain things right now, and why we need to have this information. He giant cool.
So check it out. It's He Zhangqi.
Man, shit. See,
the Kui part might be wrong, but I'm gonna tell you now, of all the languages, there's a tonal language. The A-I-O-U don't fly with Chinese. You're gonna literally have to learn it. I got the basics that I've been studying in the past couple of months, and He is actually Huh. Like we'll get it. We'll get it as we go. Yeah, we'll get it. I'm gonna learn
it. All right, so look, hey, I'm gonna say it in Ebonics. Yeah, I'm gonna say it in Ebonics. He Jong-Hu, the Chinese researcher who stunned the world last year by announcing he had helped produce genetically edited babies, has been found guilty of conducting illegal medicine practices and sentenced to 3 years in prison. A court in Shenzhen found that he and two collaborators forged ethical review documents.
See, it's funny now, George, because now he and his name are being exchanged. Go ahead, keep going.
This doctors into unknowingly implanting. It says that he misled doctors into unknowingly implanting gene-edited embryos into two women, according to Zhanhan, China. Now I'm gonna break this down, and I'm gonna explain the fuckery in this. Because when you look at this man was funded by somebody, and he had to turn in his papers and show what he was doing, and they're being watched. And he's saying that these doctors were misled into unknowingly. So these doctors were dumb. In almost so many words, was misled into unknowingly implanting gene edit into a woman's embryos, according to China's state-run press agency. One mother gave birth to twins in November 2018. It has not been made clear when the third baby was born. The court ruled that the three defendants had deliberately violated national regulations on biomedical research and medical ethics, and rashly applied gene editing technology to human reproductive medicine. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened. They never stopped this from being done. They knew it was being done. Once it happened and they seen that it was done successfully, Cal Berkeley, everybody around the world started to do it.
Yep,
But
they found what they needed to know. Yep.
Yeah, I believe that it was already. I believe that China knew, but they knew it was illegal, so they said, "Just don't let us find out about it." Yep. But once they found out about it, the whistle had to be blown because everybody had to know. So now, if they are able to remove the CC5R gene from embryos, and now these babies are born with they can't get certain diseases, and they have better brain cognition because they found out when you remove that gene, it enhances brain cognition. And I'm gonna show you a video of a kid that looks like he's one of these kids. I don't believe that they did this in 2018. I believe they been did this, but they just telling us about it now. All pleaded guilty, according to Zuhawa. The court also found he, formerly of the Southern University of Science Technology, and known as JK, and friends and colleagues, 3 million Chinese yuan, which is 429,000. His collaborators were identified as Zhang, I ain't saying them names, of a medical institution in Guangdong province, and Ku Sanhong of Zhejiang Medical Institute. Zhang received a 2-year prison sentence and was fined 1 million yen, according to Zahan, whereas Quinn was given 18 months in prison with a 2-year reprieve and a $500,000 yen fine. The court heard the case in private. Now listen to this. The court heard what? See, this is where people make the mistake. This was a case that went worldwide, where everybody, all the scientists and everybody around the world was watching this case. But how do the culprits that was involved, how does the case go private to protect the personal privacy of individuals involved? What do you mean the personal privacy? What was they covering up? And if they're saying that this virus came out of the Wuhan, at the same time you had the Wuhan, remember you also had the what was the virus that was there? SARS, right? Mm-hmm. You had the SARS there. So right in the middle of the SARS and then the COVID, you got scientists in the lab that successfully removed genes where they can't get certain diseases. And they made this private? Come on, man. It's other people. It had to be other countries and other people that was funded involved in this.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. They just closed basically by saying all the schools are going to be closed. I'm just happening to, what you said just made me think about this again. They're pushing it right into vaccine territory. So you see where this is going. This is where we thought it was going to go in the beginning. If schools are closed until the end of the year, and they said it's going to take at least a year before we have an approvable virus, they said maybe a little bit longer. Then when it hits the end of the year, if it's not ready yet, they're going to be claiming that there's no answer to what's going on. Also, they just pushed us into the cold months, which means there's a chance that they're worried that the cold temperatures that are coming up are going to become a part of the problem. It's going to become something like influenza, where it can be a seasonal kind of thing where it ramps up. So that's going to make vaccines a requirement for people to be able to go into public spaces. So instead of giving you a chip and all the craziness, they're just going to say they're going to start where they've always started. You need a vaccine to go these places.
Right. So, all right. So here we go. So now this second part of this article is going to go into what I was talking about and why this is so important. And I know Richie dropped off again. I know sometimes reading a lot of this stuff maybe seem boring, but it's important that you get this information because, see, I had to ask you, Marvin. Mm-hmm. They had the SARS. Then we had this incident over there in China. Now we're looking at this virus. But they already got the information. They already got this, and they want to keep everything private. So what I'm saying to the people is they're already doing so many things behind the scenes that they're not telling you about. And the problem that I have is the American people and the people around the world, nobody's talking about this.
Yep. And we're out of the loop, which means we don't have our own scientific labs that we pull from, where we do research, where if they come up with something and say, oh, we have this and there's no cure, we can't pull a Dr. Sebi card because we're not in the game. Dr. Sebi card was, well, he was in court and they were like, well, what is this biomineral balance? We've never heard of it before. Like, how does that cure anything? And he was like, well, Your Honor, he's right. They've never heard of this before, which is why they don't have the results I have. See, he was able to pull that card on him because he understood what's considered the boring stuff. It's not boring when you follow it from the ground up, because now you have an understanding that says, holy shit, I'm figuring out how to stop this.
And that's why when we started the series, we started from the ground up. So that way people that's been watching from the beginning can understand. So let me read on. The court has heard in private, the court heard the case in private to protect the personal privacies of the individuals involved. So that means that they was being protected because they knew too much. So they didn't want to press them and embarrass them to the point where these people start to talk. So what they did was put a gag order and shut them up. Shut your ass up, because they know too much. The report says physical and documentary evidence and witness and expert testimony were presented into the court, but it gave no details. So now these people did something that was unethical, and we know nothing about it. It's not our business. Sad story. Everyone lost in this. GK, his family, his colleagues, and his country. But the one gain is the world is awakened to the seriousness of the advancing of genetic technologies. Now you hear this shit. So the world is awakened to the seriousness of our advancing genetic technologies. I feel sorry for JK's little family though. I warned him things could end this way, but it's just too late, wrote biochemist William Hubbard of Stanford University. How you warn him? How you know?
Oh, hold on. See, he's a bioethicist.
What's that?
So basically it has to do with ethics and biology. So, you know, when they say like, you ever heard of ethical hacking?
Okay.
Oh, I'm the good guy who hacks. Same thing here.
But
I'm the ethics person when it comes to this stuff. I tried to warn you that there's a bad side to it.
But listen though, if they're doing this in China and he's William Herbert of Stanford and they keeping everything secret, how the fuck he know? The lines is being blurred here.
Well, it does say he's at Stanford University. I know some of my studies come out of there. They actually schools are a hell of a money hub. Like, while you get a degree and a good grade and an award for what you came up with, the school owns that, and they can create that study that you just created as a money making thing. But hey, if you want access to this study, we want $300 for access to the study because you're going to use it.
But this is the thing. This is supposed to be something that was done illegally, unethical, and they kept the court case private. But American universities have knowledge of it. They knew about it. It means he knew about it when it was happening because he said, "I tried to warn him."
Yep.
So the question. So now for us as thinkers, if you're doing some shit that's illegal and nobody in the chat room know, but George know, right? And I try to warn you about it. That means I have all knowledge of it.
Right. You know what it's capable of.
So now I take it back to Stanford and Cal Berkeley, and we start implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This is why I'm doing this.
He took one for the team. Whether he did it on purpose or not is not relevant at this point.
Now you get where I'm going.
Yep, exactly.
Now you get where I'm going. Go ahead and do this, fall on the sword. But okay, you figured it out. You do it. We're going to turn our backs on you, so they say, but we're going to protect you at the same time. Yeah. But what's it, like you said, but the world is awakening to the seriousness of our advancing genetic technologies.
Mm-hmm. Which they would have done it anyway. They were just trying to find a way to ease it in there and make it seem like, oh, look, when something good happened, we found something else good out. But nah, it's usually people out there. They like, nah, when you found that good thing you say you found has these implications. That's why you have think tanks in your neighborhood. Like, sometimes people don't want to do deep thinking. They just want to know what it is. That's fine. But you have to have thinkers, think tank. What's Phil Valentine's name for it? The dark matter think tank, right? Because there has to be people thinking about the implications of complicated movements. Mm-hmm. We're the ones who play it like chess and say, they moved the pawn over there. The world sees a pawn. We see a rook, a bishop, and a knight. We see all the pieces, and if it moves here, this will happen. If it moves there, that will happen. And if that happens, this will happen, that will happen, this will happen. I'm taking all your moves, and I'm thinking 3 to 6 moves ahead so that I can say what might happen if y'all fuck around. And then when you do fuck around and it happens, I'm there to say, I told y'all asses that this will happen. So for all y'all people who weren't deep thinkers, who act like you didn't have to care about this shit, now we got to deal with that, because the reason I'm a deep thinker is I'm bringing stuff to your attention so you can help me stop it with your voice. But what's happening is you're just intellectually masturbating. You're learning the info and doing nothing with it.
And then so look at this though. Watch. Because see, I did this 2 years ago, and they started to doing it in different places, and they started to do it in Britain. They started to do it in the Cal Berkeley. So they had already knew this. So some would say, George, what does this have to do with coronavirus? Well, what I'm trying to tell y'all is what you need to understand is they just created a designer baby. They designed the baby by messing with the embryos before the child was born, which is illegal, which they're trying to make legal, and I'm going to prove it. So in 2018, he announced that he had modified a key gene in a number of human embryos in a way thought to confer resistance to HIV. The modification might be passed on to the descendants of the children born with it. He recruited couples in which the father was infected with HIV and the mother was not. And they talk at the International Summit of Human Genome Editing in Hong Kong, China. He said he wanted to spare the babies the possibility of becoming infected with HIV later in life. The technique could be used to reduce HIV and AIDS disease burden in much of Africa, he argued, where those infected often face severe discrimination. So now you have to look at that when they implement Africa, and China is all in Africa now. So what are they doing in these hospitals in Africa where they was already had this technology? So I like for people to think in 360s. Fuck the conspiracy. It's beyond a conspiracy because they already did it in China and they were successful. Now they want to go into Africa and start genetically modifying embryos. Why? You know why? Who's producing babies at the... I don't know. Go get it. You see I'm live. Go figure it out. Go get something. Go. Hold on for a second. Take over, Marvin. Hold on.
Okay. All right. So with the implications of this right here is what's going to happen is, and you guys have probably already know this part, but this is the front running situation. You are going to probably have children that are going to be sleeping with genetically modified, we like to laugh and say genetically modified niggas, but genetically modified human beings. And once that starts, there's implications generation after generation. The implications can be so-called good or implications so-called bad. You might wind up having your daughter sleep with some genetically modified guy, and they have a child, and that child all of a sudden has crazy brain capacity, doesn't get certain diseases, but then they have a child, and now you're 3 generations down, and that child, all of a sudden they say for some reason the modification we made started a degradation in 3rd generation children after. Now, how many years after that kind of problem could be? Now you had a child, your child got with someone genetically modified, they had a child, and then that child had a child, and all of a sudden the original intention that was injected in starts to break down. But it's 3 generations later now. Your whole damn lineage is messed up.
Right. But see, they figured out how to create these designer babies. And I'm gonna prove it in what an American scientist said after the fact. So they all had this knowledge. And as he says, the father was infected with HIV, the mother was not. So in a talk at the International Summit of Human Genome Editing in Hong Kong, China, he said he wanted to spare the babies the possibility of becoming infected with HIV. So basically says the technique could be used to reduce HIV and AIDS disease burden in much of Africa, he argued, with those affected with severe discrimination. Now, what I was trying to say was Africa is producing babies they still producing babies. And they over there, they want to create a military. I'll get into it in another stream. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation. A lot of people ain't ready for that.
You saw the rabbit hole starting.
Yeah, what they're trying to do in Africa, man, with that African DNA. When you want to genetically engineer and modify something, who you think you want to do it with? That's why when you go look at the movie, what's that, Hobbs and with the Rock?
Yeah,
Hobbs and Shaw. Who was the one that was genetically modified? The fucking the African
black man. Oh, that's funny. Me and you gonna try and put together the stream, but I wanted to put together one about movies for a long time, not to decode them, but to look at shit like that. Like for instance, who was the look at the technology in superheroes. A lot of the white superheroes have supernatural stuff. A lot of the black superheroes got technology. Black Panther, Cyborg in DC. You just said Idris Elba and Hobbs and Shaw. Dark Tower had Idris Elba where he was using the gun. Even what was that? Y'all probably noticed. What was the name of that fucking waste of time ass movie where they said the first black superhero and it was a young boy who looked like he could make shit float with his hand? You remember when that came out? Nobody could probably remember the name of it, but it was they were naming it the first black superhero. That fucking movie was such a disappointment that the motherfucker was using technological engineering in his arm. That shit was not that was not no superhero shit. I was mad as hell. I was like, it's the biggest waste of time I've ever seen in my damn life.
I tell you though, look forward to this genetically engineering and modifying on black people, African people, because we are the best subjects for it. They need your artificial intelligence to create their intelligence. That's why they want to go into Africa and in parts of India. They want to go there because that's what, man, listen, the announcement touched off a firestorm of criticism from science and ethics in attendance at the summit around the world. Experts agree. Now, watch the hypocrisy on this next article I go to. Now, experts agree there are safer and more effective ways to prevent HIV infections, and the experiment was deemed premature, irresponsible, and unjustified because it exposed the babies to risks associated with gene editing for little, if any, benefit. Bullshit. It's kind of like they all sat behind the window and was like, man, go ahead and do it. Let's see if it works. Man, that shit ain't gonna work, but still do it. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, they're doing what children. They're doing what children do. That was the argument that article you read yesterday was making. It's like when they were talking about the advent of humans have gone on for centuries, where even as something as simple as creating the hammer or the axe was technology that was groundbreaking, and we've always been in this world of groundbreaking science. So they're trying to compare the way babies and children are naturally to the way humans are. We're insatiable in terms of developing the new thing to the point of our own detriment.
So Voice of Reason asks, who's controlling the narrative? Well, let's find out, Voice of Reason. But many key questions surrounding his activities remain, and scientists are hoping more information will be forthcoming. We have been wondering what had happened to He Jong-kwon. There has been little, if any, news of his whereabouts or the progress of any investigation being conducted by the Chinese authorities. Because they paid him to do it by the Chinese, or other details surrounding what he had done. For many months, Robin Lavelle Badge, a stem cell biologist at the Francis Crick Institute, said in a statement distributed by the United Kingdom Science Media Center, in that sense alone, the information now released is reassuring. He added, bullshit, because they in cahoots with it. You got to remember, the British had conquered China for a while, and China has a civil war going on right now. So Lavelle Bass said he cannot comment on the severity of the sentence. See, how is it your business? but both prison and fine would have been the likely penalties if someone had done what he did in the UK. The field of gene editing will carry the hashtag, listen to this, CRISPR babies in the mind of the public for a period longer than he's sentenced, and that an additional crime he committed was not formally charged with, says Foyer, a CRISPR research at the University of California. But what I tell you, they was already doing this shit at Cal Berkeley. So all of them was in cahoots together, man. I hope this stain will soon diminish relative and positive impact that gene editing is likely to have in ethically treating existing diseases. Now you hear the word, right?
Yep, you got to ethically treat it, right? Make sure it's ethical.
So the ethical is just telling you what we're doing, because he did it already.
Mm-hmm.
What they call it unethical now is ethical because the cat is out the bag because we did it first.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. Now we got to come up with ethical practices because, like you said, the cat's out of the bag. So now that we're here, we might as well,
So some will say, well, George, what does this got to do with the coronavirus? It has a lot to do with the coronavirus. Because while they got you scared, Miss Givens, right behind at these colleges, they're removing genes from embryos so that these babies won't even be susceptible to these so-called viruses. Let's go to the next article where I can show you what this American doctor said. Genetically modified babies, because y'all see what y'all need to understand. That's all they were. Those twins that was born, those 3 babies, were genetically modified babies. They genetically modified the babies so the babies could not be born with HIV, could not get HIV or other so-called diseases. Right or wrong, Marvin?
Right.
So now here you go. This is from a BBC article, BBC News article, right? This is Dr. Kevin Smith. Genetically modified babies ethically justifiable academic claims. Now, they said that they put that man in jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we put you in jail because what you did was preposterous and dangerous. But thank you. But thank you for doing it anyway.
Yeah, we took a look at it and it's ethically justifiable.
Y'all gotta pay attention to this kind of stuff, man, because it's boring sometimes, but it is what it is. And watch this, right? Dr. Smith said gene editing risks were low enough to justify the use on human embryos. So, oh my God, don't do it. Oh shit, it worked. Oh shit, damn, it's that low? Creating genetically modified babies is both ethically justifiable and highly desirable. Now, I want y'all to hear that. Highly desirable. You know why it's going to be highly desirable? How many people are dying around the world because of COVID-19? So why wouldn't it be desirable? See, because before, you remember, people were are very religious. And they said that you're trying to play God. This goes against God. So the white man going to say, fuck your God. We're going to put some diseases out here. We're going to see how much you love God. Do you love God or your children? Because we're going to kill your babies and your daddies and your uncles with these diseases. And then we're going to say, well, we can genetically modify your embryos and you ain't got to ever worry about this again. So do you love God or do you love your circumstances more? This is what they've done to you. Dr. Kevin Smith claims the risks of gene editing were now long enough to justify its use in human embryos. Dr. Smith said an ethically sound attempt could be less than 2 years away. Last year, Chinese professor Hu Hongqing claimed to have created the first genetically edited babies. China said he acted illegally and in pursuit of fame and fortune. Look at the hypocrisy in this shit.
It looked like he about to get it because all he got was 3 years in prison and no fine.
But look at the hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that it's cool to do. It's kind of like weed was illegal to sell. You lock me up for pounds of weed, now you go to the goddamn store and get some weed. Because the government sanctioned it. So what Hu Hongqing did was illegal and he acted illegally in pursuit of fame and fortune. But now you got Dr. Kevin Smith saying, man, that shit cool. Man, it seems like he got a blunt in his mouth and he's sitting back like, man, that shit cool, man. We just did a couple of them joints last night. We just genetically modified some babies, man. Shout out to Dr. Kwan, man. That's all they doing. Scientists edited DNA in human embryos, which had been donated by couples who no longer needed them for IVF for the first time in the UK in 2017. Look at this shit, man. Now the cat's coming out of the bag now. Now who did it first? Did the UK do it or did Hu Hongqing do it? You see, because you're reading this, right?
Yep. They knew this shit was possible. They just weren't supposed to do it in target specific. Yeah, they weren't supposed to do it in target specific areas. Hey, we fucking around with this. Don't fuck around with it when it comes to the embryos. What did Hay do? Fucked around with it with the embryos. They knew what it was going to do because they were already doing it on things besides the embryos.
Well, it's kind of like when you tell your child don't do something, they go do it anyway. They told them don't do it because they knew they was going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's the complex that people have when they're talking about Genesis in the Bible. Don't do that. But the other people who are not Christians are going to say, the fuck you put it there for them to do it for them. See, that's the argument. It's the same argument going on time after time.
Yeah, it is eugenics, and that too is modern day eugenics.
Yeah, it is. This is what eugenics was. This is what becomes of us fighting back against eugenics in the past. We actually put up a Frances Cress Welsing. For those of y'all who haven't heard anything about her, you should go look at her battle William Shockley on YouTube. You absolutely must see Frances Cress Welsing destroy William Shockley, because at the height of eugenics, when he put out the bell curve, he was trying to literally say that, you know, all that stuff about you need a license to have a baby, and, you know, if you're a certain type of person, you shouldn't be able to have a baby and all that. They were trying to justify that towards black people, but they were using slavery as their history that they had put in the books. So they create slavery, dumb us down, make us ignorant, take away our education, write books and shit about it over years and say the Negro is dumb, ignorant, and all that, even though they made us that way. Then they say that because they're unproductive, dumb, and ignorant, let's make sure, without using the word black, minding you, they were saying, let's let the least productive of us be the ones who are not allowed to have babies and stuff. So they tagged the information forward, and he wrote it in the bell curve. So she had an interview with him about the bell curve, destroyed his ass, like his career was done, and sent his ass into the background. So with all the stuff going on, Frances Cress Welsing was the person who stood up and defended us and knocked that shit down. This is what became of it, because they said, it was kind of like for them, a goddamn it moment, like shit, she stopped our plans or she halted it, so we need another way in. So they renamed it and took the technology to a level where things are so small and have so many regulations behind it, the average human being couldn't fight it if they tried.
Yeah, so look at this, right? Writing in the journal Biotics, Dr. Smith said research in the area will offer hope to parents at risk of transmitting serious genetic diseases to their future children. Modern studies show that the genetic modification is the only way to deal with multiple diseases associated with genes within the embryo. He said that human germline cell spanning generations was by no means perfect, with evolution providing animal protection from the
minimal.
Break that part, Marvin, because you can break that down.
With evolution providing minimal protection from diseases that tend to strike in later years.
So what does that mean?
So basically, let's read the whole thing. He said the human germ line, we know we're made up of bacteria or germs, right? Cells spanning generations. You're made up of 10 trillion cells. Cells are, it's like taking Legos and putting them all together to build a body. So cells make up an entire body, and the mechanisms within the cell keep the body going, okay? It says this was by no means perfect, with evolution providing minimal protection, meaning if you caught a disease and had, things kind of went bad for it, but you had children, there's a chance that things were going to go bad for those children too. So they're saying that they're using that whole thing based on our current living situation to say that the way that the nature naturally does it is not strong enough. It's too weak. It's imperfect. We're here to make it perfect, meaning if we fix you up now, then when you have children, they're all fixed up and ain't got to worry about it. The regular genetic line, it doesn't promise you nothing.
Wow. So he said GM techniques offer the prospect of protecting future people against these and other common disorders. So it's funny when they talk about with evolution providing minimal protection from diseases that tend to strike in years. So it's funny when you hear that, because now you're hearing all this stuff that's coming out now, and they're telling you, we can checkmate that. Mm-hmm. All this different things that's passed out. We got that. So it says ethically sound. Dr. Smith said the creation of genetically modified babies was highly desirable. He said if common disorders could be avoided or delayed by genetically modified human beings, the average disease lifespan could be substantially extended. Lifespan could be substantially extended. Dr. Smith said that to win public trust, the ethical approach must be at the heart of our advances as as society was largely opposed to genetically modified humans. Now, that's important when you hear that. Mm-hmm. What is everybody doing right now?
A lot of people are opposing the situation. They're looking at it as they're trying to play God. Like, to them, these people, it's not exactly like most of the people in the world who are arguing against it. It's more emotionally and culturally the reason why. It's not really with understanding, because with understanding, you can battle them on their own ground and force a political position that says, should we do this or should we not? People aren't unified enough to put them in that position. This is where knowledge becomes power in a democratized society. It's one that says, okay, that this is what the technology does. That's what you're saying it does. Okay, when we look at the science and the technology, because we know it too, this is how it works, this is how it works. But the implications of it is this. Now, if you want to be able to do it, the only thing we can give you is a little corner, maybe in the back area of Antarctica with a bunch of people watching you, where you get to take one person, and I'm sorry, but you're going to have to take 5 generations testing that shit before we'll even give it another talk.
But look,
you can say stuff like that.
But look, Marvin, this is the thing. What is happening around the world right now?
A lot of people are sick and getting and kind of disturbed about what's going on in the world.
So it says, Dr. Smith said, to win the public trust, an ethical approach must be at the heart of any advances.
Yep.
As society was largely opposed to genetically modified humans. Everybody right now is running scared and afraid, right?
Yep. So appeal to that.
So now, when they push this forward, what do you think the people are going to do?
They're going to be with it.
There you go. He said the negative publicity generated by the ethically problematic first ever production of GM babies in China last year was strongly criticized by most geneticists and ethicists, further hardening attitudes against the creation of so-called designer babies. Now, y'all got to learn how to listen. So now, if they had a plan, and because it came out the wrong way, people around the world was upset. Hit them with some corona shit, goddammit. Kill everybody. Just start killing people. Have everybody afraid. Because we got something up our sleeve. Put it on the news all around the world. Have bodies dropping. But no fear. We got something for y'all. We can make sure this never happen again. I gotta listen to the wordplay.
Yep. There's people who come to my Facebook page when I put up articles and stuff that are against things like vaccines, and they argue with it. I had one person telling me, you need to talk more about GMOs. That's more of a problem. But I feel like this is irresponsible. You're talking about vaccines. Vaccines have saved many lives. And I'm like, where's your proof behind that? I was like, you get a vaccine before you get sick. When the human body gets sick without a vaccine, it finds out whether or not it can survive. What's the difference? I have to take the vaccine before I get sick to see if the vaccine actually works. But where's my comparative area where I don't get the vaccine to prove that it does or doesn't work? You can't. You have to choose before the situation sets in. Do you want the vaccine or do you want to catch it? People who catch it go through, in most cases, 2-week incubation period of the virus taking hold, their body defending against it, and their body creates genetics that knows how to defend against that virus if it comes along. That's an immunity that's passed from mother to child. You can actually pass lifetime immunity from a mother to a child. That's with certain viruses. Certain other viruses, because they're RNA viruses, can create new strains. So when people say, damn, you got it again, it's a different strain. Same name because it's showing the same symptoms. What makes the strain different is the biological organism it came out of.
So let's look at it. So let's look at this. It says, the doctor said delaying an ethically sound move to the world where genetic diseases can be reduced was failing people with the debilitating conditions.
So it's based totally, so that means that the solution that's being presented to the public is based on what type of people? The people with debilitating diseases, which means we move the world based on the sickest of us. We don't study the healthiest of us. If they study the healthiest people, you make sick people healthy. If you study sick people, you make healthy people sick.
That's right. Look, he said, if such negative attitude, well, that's part of population control. If such negative attitudes to biomedical innovation had prevailed in the 1970s, the development in the use of IVF and
in vitro fertilization.
Yeah, massive beneficial technology would have been severely delayed and indeed might never have come to fruition. So now this is the thing. They looked at, so this is the part where, Marvin, when you got to come in now as we go to this thing, because this is real important as we go here, because the part that's confusing to me, when they call the gene editing in the children of the gene editing of embryos, not children, unethical. It says science attempt controversial experiment to edit DNA and sperm of human sperm using CRISPR. I need you to read this article. We don't have to read the whole thing, break it down, because I want to go over to a video, because we got about an hour left. I want to go to a video and break down who I believe to be a designer baby. I want to show it to the people. I can't prove it. I'm going to say it first. I cannot prove it, but I believe this child to be a designer baby when I show the video. So
science attempt controversial experiment to edit DNA in human sperm using CRISPR. It says they're attempting it, so you know it's about to go down, right? First, it was human embryos. Now scientists are trying to develop another way to modify human DNA that can be passed on to future generations. And that's where you know it gets real, because whatever they modify is now going to become a part of a cycle of things you can't track anymore, which sets the precedent for something else. You know, Hegelian dialectic. I present the problem, you fear of it, and then I present the solution. Reproductive biologists at Weill Cornell Medicine, that's one of the schools that I did photography for, in New York City are attempting to use the powerful gene editing technique called CRISPR to alter genes in human sperm. NPR got exclusive access to watch the controversial experiments underway. The research is aimed at finding new ways to prevent disorders caused by genetic mutations that are passed down from men, including some forms of male infertility. The team is starting with a gene that can increase the risk for breast, ovarian, and prostate and other cancers. The experiments are just starting and have not yet been successful, but the research raises many of the same hopes and fears as editing the DNA of human embryos. Nevertheless, the researchers defend the work. It is important from the scientific point of view to investigate in an ethical manner. Remember, that's their key terms, #ethical manner, to be able to learn if it's possible, says Giampiero Palermo, a professor for embryology and obstetrics and gynecology at Weill Cornell Medicine, who runs the lab where the work is being conducted. Just so you know, they have a lab, they have a location in Qatar too. So these Weill Cornell is pretty connected around the world. During a recent visit to Palermo's andrology laboratory at Weill Cornell Center for Reproductive Medicine, the NPR witnessed an experiment attempting to edit a single gene in sperm. If we can wipe out a particular gene, it would be incredible, Palermo says. Theoretically, in principle, this would be major benefit to society. Other scientists who are now involved in the research agree. One of the main goals is to try to understand and possibly prevent male infertility caused by genetic mutations. Possibly. They're trying something so that they can possibly prevent. Male infertility is a very common condition, says Kyle Orwig, a professor in the Department of Obstetrics, Gynecology and Reproductive Sciences at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. And there are some diseases that are incredibly devastating to families. And for those diseases, for me, if you can get rid of it, why wouldn't you get rid of it? But others say editing DNA in sperm raises the same troubling question as editing DNA in embryos. Would it ever be safe?
Well, let's stop right there real fast.
Okay.
Because I was waiting till you get there. Because it says, well, others say, because people are not stupid. They're trying to go in through the back door. Yep. If it's illegal or unethical to edit embryos, where do they get off editing the sperm? Like, could you explain that to us, Marvin? For people like us that's not that smart, like I'm confused.
Explain which part. Give me the exact explanation points.
Well, they'll edit the embryo of the woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say it's unethical to do. But to go and edit my sperm, how is that ethical?
Yep. Remember the last article you put up? Now they found that it was justified ethically.
Yes.
Once they justified one side ethically, but in this case, correlation equals causation. It doesn't always mean that. They always tell you correlation does not mean causation, but in this case, that's what they're doing. We're correlating the fact that we edited an embryo and found out it was ethically justified. And since sperm kind of goes hand in hand with that, that's justifiable now. So we don't really have to talk justification. Now we're going to talk ethics, meaning now that we've agreed this is going to happen, let's make it ethical. Let's talk ethics. Let's not pay attention to the things that people are going to complain about. Pump them full of the reasons why they're going to want to do it. Because remember, all businesses cater to emotions when you do advertising. They say cater to people's emotions.
Okay.
If you're going to make if we wanted to make a video for a bunch of people out there in the world that don't want to listen to us, we have literally, you might as well say today, you got like 15 seconds to convince them to listen to the rest of the video. But they say in public speaking, you take that, you give them about, if you can convince them to keep looking after about 15 seconds, you got 3 minutes to convince them to keep going, and your 3 minutes buy you another 10. That's how small the attention span is now timed and mathematical.
Okay.
So for that reason, they're going to cater to your emotions as quickly as possible. That's where that hashtag CRISPR babies came up. That's a fast way of saying something cool. So what's the other quick way? Do you want your baby to not get sick? See, right there, anybody with a sick baby is going to listen. Want your baby to not get sick? Hashtag CRISPR babies. What the fuck is a CRISPR baby? CRISPR babies will allow us to edit out the crap that's making you sick, making your child have autism, making your child get AIDS, making your child get this and that. And every person who's listening to that, who's sick from a disease, wants to hear it.
Right. So look, as you keep going down, it gets real interesting too, though.
Would it ever be safe to make babies that way? Would it open the door to someone someday trying to make designer babies? Should scientists be trying to tinker with the human gene pool in ways that could affect generations to come? Quote unquote, it doesn't matter whether you're manipulating the embryo or you're manipulating the sperm, says Francois Baylis, the ethicist in Dalhousie University in Canada, who is advertising the World Health Organization about gene editing. Well, he's advising the WHO, who's definitely in the middle of the current circumstance we're in right now.
Dude, right.
Yep. The concern is, what kind of world are you creating as you move down the path and start manipulating human genetics? We're on top of the cusp of prospective parents controlling the genetics of their offspring, says Baylis, who wrote the forthcoming book, Altered Inheritance. Remember Altered Carbon?
Yep.
CRISPR and the Ethics of Human Genome Editing. Maybe we need to grip the book, I guess, and get up to date. CRISPR enables scientists to make very precise changes in DNA. As a result, many scientists say that the technique is revolutionizing scientific research. Doctors have already started using it to try to treat diseases. For example, well, that was the end of that point. But a Chinese scientist stunned the world last year when he announced he had used CRISPR to create the world's first genetically modified baby. So we brought you guys up to date on that. Twin girls whose DNA he edited. It's funny because it's either he or her. When he edited were the embryos to try to protect them from AIDS. This announcement was widely condemned as premature, reckless, and unethical. In addition to concerns with such a step may be unsafe for the resulting babies and future generations, which is my point. Critics say that this kind of research is unnecessary because there are other ways to prevent most genetic diseases. Editing sperm, eggs, or embryos also raise profound philosophical, moral, and ethical questions that need to be addressed first. There's reasons to worry about undertaking the research before we've asked the questions properly, whether we would ever actually want to use these techniques, said Ben Hurlbut, bioethicist at Arizona State University. So we got a lot of bioethicists jumping in on this.
Watch the hypocrisy when you get down. Watch. I'll tell you when you get there.
Okay. Once those techniques are developed, it becomes much harder to govern them. If you've done the hard work of developing the recipe, someone else can bake the cake. Theoretically, editing DNA in human sperm could be somewhat safer than editing DNA in human embryos. Theoretically.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta look. They was just criticizing it. Now, the further you go down, it's like the attention span of people that's going to continue to read it. Yep. Oh, well, it's unethical and we shouldn't do it. But, if we're going to do one, this one is safer.
Yep. There's a war tactic that states, I believe this is in Sun Tzu's Art of War, where they tell you, if you can bring the enemy to the table to talk to them, you already got a way in. Like, talking is one of the ways that they can get you involved. They can start the dialogue to move it in the direction they wanted to move in. So some people, when it came to war, they just didn't fucking talk to you. They assumed they were going to fight you anyway, because they knew if a person who came to you with bad intentions in the first place came to talk to you, they're trying to find a way to not go to war to get it to happen. Otherwise, they've already made up in their mind that they want to go to war to make it happen anyway. And that's what you're seeing happen ethically in front of your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I know that things can get dangerous and things can get kind of out of hand quickly, says Jane Wang, a lab technician conducting the experiments in New York.
Jane Wang.
June Wang. But on the other hand, I think CRISPR can do so much. It has a lot of potential. I bet it does. This particular experiment is targeting a gene known as BRCA2. That's the breast cancer gene that women have been cutting their breasts off because they have the gene and think they're going to get it.
They don't have to cut the titty off no more now.
Right. Mutations in this gene can increase the risk for breast, ovarian, and prostate and other cancers. I have high hopes that we can have a huge impact, Wang says. During my tour of the facility to watch the experiment getting underway, Wang escorts me into a small windowless research lab after punching a keypad on the door. I watched as Wang and a colleague snap open the latches on a frosty silver canister, pop off the lid, and slid out a small vial. It contains 58 million sperm purchased by a woman for an in vitro fertilization and then donated for research after she had completed IVF. The sperm samples are frozen in liquid nitrogen. After carefully thawing and preparing the sperm, Wang puts millions of sperms on a slide under a microscope to make sure they are healthy. It looks really good, she concludes after examining the specimen. The key challenge to editing DNA in human sperm is finding a way to deliver the microscopic CRISPR gene editing tool to the DNA. The problem is that DNA is packed with very tightly inside of the head of each sperm, making it difficult to insert the CRISPR tool. This makes scientists wonder whether it may even be possible. I think it'll be very difficult to do, says David Albertini, editor of Journal of Assisted Reproduction and Genetics, and a visiting scientist at Rockefeller University in New York City. Oh, look who else is connected, right? Wang and Palermo acknowledge that it will be a challenge, but they remain hopeful. Nobody's tried to do CRISPR on sperm before. We have to try to figure out the right way to do it. A potential solution involves a process known as electroporation, which involves delivering an electric shock to cells. The hope is that the shock will cause the sperm to kind of loosen up a little bit for a moment. When the cell loosens up, the CRISPR gene editing tool will hopefully get inside, so they're going to slip him in there. Wang carefully fills a vial with sperm and then drips it in a solution containing the CRISPR tool, which in this case has been designed to target BRCA2. She then places the mixture inside the electroporation machine, which will deliver a 1100 volt shock. It's kind of a weird concept, Wang acknowledges, but it works pretty well.
So let's stop there, right? Because basically this is the other side. So what they're doing is, if they have a pushback on doing the egg or genetically modifying the egg, they go into the sperm. But really they doing both. But the question is, how come this is not being talked about, period? So we're talking about designer babies, right?
Right.
And I seen something that was kind of crazy. And I'm gonna play this video. I'm gonna play this video on this kid, right? This little white kid. I don't care what nobody say. This is just my opinion.
From school. Let's stop and think about it.
This is just my opinion. Human memory and manipulation, nanoscience.
Worst fears.
It was unbelievable, and I was standing there like, how can this be possible? I used to be terrified of spiders.
The targets, and you can erase the fear memory itself. Are we approaching a day where at the flip of a switch, we can rewrite our past?
Being able to use new technologies to edit memories is frightening.
I think that it's a matter of when this happens, not a matter of if it'll happen.
Memory hackers. Right now on Nova.
Major funding for Nova is provided by the following.
Now look at this, y'all.
The David H. Koch Fund for Science.
Yeah, it's funded by the Koch family.
And promoting public understanding of science.
Well, y'all better look up the Koch brothers.
And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by PBS viewers like you. Thank you. And the George D. Smith Fund. I remember.
I remember. Memory. We know it as a record of our lives, how to find our keys or recite facts from school. But stop and think about it. It's so much more. From your earliest memory.
Falling off of a horse at about 5 years old.
When I walked into kindergarten.
I want y'all to listen.
On 1925, then we moved to 513 Spring Avenue.
Your happiest.
When my daughter was born, when she came out.
See a real life human being breathe their first breath of fresh air.
Or saddest.
When the death of my father.
We are little but the sum of our memories.
It's who we are. That's how we understand ourselves and our lives.
Consider for a moment just how vivid a memory can be.
The smells, the sounds.
The shoes, the socks, the pants, the shirt I wore.
It was like it happened yesterday.
I do have a picture in my head.
I can see it.
That is a remarkably complex computational process that memory achieved within milliseconds. What an incredible, powerful gift.
Look at this double right here.
How is this gift possible? How does the world get into our heads and turn into a memory? How does memory actually work?
Wow.
Turns out that's one of the biggest mysteries in science today.
If you go and ask most people, they would say they understand memory. But the truth is really rather far from that. We sort of understand the tip of the iceberg.
We're just kind of nibbling around the big central mystery of memory. How do I bring back in time now something that happened to me long ago? It's a very difficult problem that we have to solve.
Memory is the biggest mystery. It's as big as the question of what is the universe? Why are we here?
Now, hold on.
This 11-year-old boy hold
Now,
on.
hold on for a second. Let me pause this for a minute. Now, I want y'all to look at this little boy. And GBS, he gonna be doing some stuff, right? And now remember, this whole thing is funded by the Koch family. And you gotta follow the money and follow the narrative of the story. Now, we just showed you guys designer babies and them genetically modifying embryos and removing genes. It causes brain cognition. We talk about nanotechnology. Now this is a nano-human memory manipulation video. And this is an 11-year-old boy. I'm telling you, I'm almost convinced to it. They did something to this boy, and they're presenting him as, just you'll see.
Unlocking the mystery? On first glance, Jake Hausler looks like a normal 5th grader. But as Washington University's Roddy Rodiker is discovering, he seems to be anything but.
What happened Friday, October 28th, 2011?
The World Series Game 7. Cardinals won 6-2.
Who are the pitchers for the teams?
Chris Carpenter for St. Louis, Matt Harrison for the Rangers.
We're just getting to know Jake and just starting to study him. He's obviously a very bright kid with a different kind of very powerful memory. Let's try a different day here. How about May 4th, 2013?
That was a Saturday. And I saw Iron Man 3.
He appears to have pretty unique abilities, so he can tell you what he did years ago to this date. And that's very, very unusual in and of itself, and to find it in a child is particularly unusual.
When was Osama bin Laden killed?
May 2nd, 2011, in Pakistan. May 1st, 2011, in USA.
I mean, it's amazing. I've never felt like my memory was particularly bad, but compared to Jake's, clearly it is. It's just a mystery as to what's going on here.
Jake can remember details from almost every day of his life since age 7.
Once he started speaking, really, we noticed he was different.
What are the 13 colonies? Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland.
Yeah, I remember taking him to the grocery store one time and he knew where all the items were by aisle. It's a little bit like having a computer living with you.
Y'all hear this, right? Y'all better listen.
We all remember getting a pet, but the exact date?
What day did I pick up Gracie in Wisconsin?
March 31st,
Where did I fly into?
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
What did I eat for dinner the night?
Now, hold on. I want to pause it for a minute because I want you guys to understand something. Other countries around the world, when you tend to look at war, and I always say stuff 2 years, 3 years in advance, and I get called crazy. They're gonna call me pseudo. They're gonna say I don't know what I'm talking about. But 2 years from now, we'll probably be sitting here again. They're like, "Damn, George, you called it." Some of these babies, when they're shooting your child up with those immunizations when they're first born, are being shot with nanotechnology, where they're developing these babies to be soldiers already, to be the apex of knowledge, to be CRISPR babies already from the time they're born. You don't know when they inject your children with those shots from firstborn to 3. You don't know what they're shooting your children up with, and they're competing against other countries: Britain, China, India. Everybody's at the cutting edge of technology, and because they're creating these designer nanotechnology babies with brain cognition, you're going to start seeing children like this pop up all over the place. And you're going to say, "Oh, this child was born this way." No, they did something to this child. Some of the parents is involved because they went in and got their embryos genetically modified, and some parents don't even know, because this is the child that's going to be competing. This is the child that's going to be in the military. He's going to be in the corporations. He's going to be working for government. And I'm telling y'all, man, listen. When you see who funds this operation, and then you see what they're doing as far as brain manipulation, what I'm gonna show y'all next, man, let me just play a little bit more of this.
I was in Wisconsin.
Peas curds?
That is correct. There's no doubt that there's something different going on there.
Of course there's something different.
Is that he has
something different.
Highly superior autobiographical memory.
Highly superior, you can remember days from your life in lots of detail, like what day of the week was it, and you can't forget it.
What about 2004?
Jim McGaw is a pioneer in the science of memory. He discovered HSAM 15 years ago.
And when did you meet with me?
June 28, 2008.
So far, out of the several thousand tested, he's discovered 55 adults who have this amazing ability.
Saturday, the Panera Bread, Newport Beach.
I can give them any date, say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and so on. Do you know when Elvis Presley died?
August 16, 77.
And their performance will be at least.
Getting loads and loads of data on it, so it's very, very exciting. I mean, to do this in a normal person in this comprehensive way would be really exciting.
He's scanning his brain, right? Hold on.
A child who has particularly unique abilities is extra special.
Then they'll compare Jake's scans to other children's to see if they can unlock the secret of what makes his memory so extraordinary.
It's a chance of a lifetime. You can't write a grant saying we're going to go look for someone like him. They'll never find us, right?
The hope is that this little boy's brain can help answer some big questions about how our memory works.
So he's different from us.
Extract remarkable amounts of information from his brain, but we don't know if you or I have that information in us, but we just can't remember it, or if it just doesn't get encoded into our brain function in the first place.
The mystery with Jake and the other HSAMs is, do they actually keep more memories than the rest of us? Or do we all have this wealth of detail buried deep inside our brains, we just can't get at it?
If we can understand how he harnesses that to be able to generate that within ourselves, to be
Now wait. Hey Marvin.
Yep.
Did you hear what he just said?
Mm-hmm.
If we can understand how he generates that, we can basically put it to us. So now they create it in the child, put it out here where it seems astonishing and oh my God, this is amazing. And they already know how he do it, but they acting like they don't. So then they say, hey, we found out we cracked the code on this brain cognition, and you can get it for your child.
Yep.
Oh man, boy.
This is the issue. The funny thing is they're so comfortable with separating people in certain circumstances, but let you talk black and white. Oh no, there's no difference in the race. We're all the same. We're all this and that. And I'm like, stop. I that's actually, if you go on my Facebook right now, you'll see a friend of mine is making that argument right now. He's trying to take the whole black people getting coronavirus thing. He tries to take what I put as my status and say he don't think the race part need to be in it. And I'm like, scientifically, race always should be in it. You should take all differences into account. We do react differently in the sun, therefore giving us stronger bone density, stronger memory, stronger ability to withstand outside threats like viruses.
I'm gonna go on your Facebook channel and tell him to shut his ass up and stop trying to be Captain Coon. That's what I'm gonna tell him. Shut your ass up.
No, it ain't even a black dude. It's a white dude who worked at my company with me. He cool, but I know these are the type of situations that he'll try and inject a point of view. And I already corrected him. I'm like, no, you have to put race into it. Whether you emotionally, personally, whichever reason it is, it needs to be in there, because if you keep trying to separate us from the reality, that's what's making us fight in the first place. No, it doesn't have to be race. Yes, it's race-based. There's a reason people were saying black people seem like they're not getting it. And when y'all finally start putting out the info, you're choosing locations where there's a high probability we're going to get it.
Let me go. We got to 1:30.
Yep.
Well, to 1:25. So this is about, I'll play another 2 minutes of this, and then we're going to go to the Elon Musk. And we're going to show what they're doing.
Something truly new and important about the functioning of the most complicated and interesting known structure in the universe, and that's our brain. And the most important thing it does is learn and remember.
But what exactly is a memory? Amazingly, this simple question has stumped thinkers for ages. Until the 1950s, few clues emerged. And then came a single patient who would change everything.
When I was a young researcher, learning was learning and memory was memory. And it was just, a thing that happens. And then along came the findings of Brenda Milner.
All these white people.
Subject HM.
HM stands for Henry Mollison, patient zero in the study of memory. After a childhood bicycle accident, Mollison began to suffer severe epileptic seizures.
To try and quell those seizures, neurosurgeons performed an operation where they removed the parts of his brain that they thought were creating those seizures.
Much of what they removed came from a part of the brain called the hippocampus. After the surgery, his seizures were gone, but there was an alarming side effect.
From that point forward, he could no longer make any new memories. He was what we call densely amnesic.
It could only mean one thing. The hippocampus must be the part of the brain responsible for creating new long-term memories. This in itself was a breakthrough, but that was just the start.
Do you know what you did yesterday?
No, I don't.
How about this morning?
Brenda Milner wanted to know, despite his amnesia, could he still have some form of memory?
He was a very nice person. He was very cooperative. He, fortunately for us, he liked doing tests. He liked puzzles.
He was
So
doing
she
tests.
came
He
up with
became
a
a test
puzzle
dummy.
to trace a star shape using only a mirror to see his hand.
If you try this, it's very difficult. But normal subjects, with practice, a few trials, learn to do this thing.
Because HM appeared to have zero ability to make new long-term memories, he should be hopeless. He shouldn't be able to learn anything.
How's he going to do? I didn't know. No idea.
And in fact, every time Milner asked him to train, he claimed he'd never done the task before. But his performance betrayed him. He got better and better until...
I was so excited because this was a breakthrough. He can't remember the events of his life, but he seems that he can possibly learn motor skills.
The fact that HM could remember motor skills, but not new events in his life, meant that memory couldn't be just one thing.
we had to leave behind the notion there was just one kind of memory. We now knew that there are different kinds of memory, and those different kinds of memories depend on different parts of the brain.
That's right, and different aspects of
Knowing
experience.
where memories are in the brain is one thing, but how do they get there? How does a long-term memory get written in the brain in the first place? These are the questions that have driven Nobel Prize winner Eric Kandel for over 60 years. It all started back in Vienna.
I want y'all to understand something. The reason why I'm showing this, and I know this drop out because niggas is allergic to information because it gets boring. You know, we got to be dancing and windmilling and shit and cussing for you people to really get it. But I tell people all the time, you got to pay attention to this because this goes back 2 years ago to lead up to now. They've been in the lab studying the brain and the memory and the mind for a minute, for mind control, Manchurian candidates, many different things. And I got to show all of this to you guys for you to understand this. For you guys to understand just what's going on there and how you're being manipulated. So it's a couple more minutes and then we go right into Elon Musk.
On his 9th birthday,
I received a marvelous little toy car that I drove with great pleasure through our small apartment.
2 days later was Kristallnacht, the infamous night of broken glass. In that violent prelude to the Holocaust, thousands of Nazi soldiers stormed the Jewish neighborhoods in Vienna.
November 9th, there was a knock on the door, and 2 Nazi policemen came in and said, "Pack all your things." When we came back a week later, everything of value was gone, including my little toy car. It was a very painful experience.
A painful experience that would define his life's work.
Everyone who went through the Holocaust, there are memories that you can never forget.
Kandel wanted to know, how did that experience become a memory he would carry with him for life?
That got me interested in psychology and psychoanalysis.
Listen, y'all.
And when I got interested in that, I said, what's the central question in psychoanalysis? It's memory, how we recall things.
But where to start? His biggest lead was Milner's early work with HM. The hippocampus is crucial for forming new memories. But how do they get there? Could there be a physical mechanism on the cellular level?
So I thought I would record from single cells in the hippocampus, and those cells would be so unique, it would speak to me of memory storage.
Within months, he was able to record the sound of hippocampal neurons firing.
Our colleagues are euphoric, but they
Here we
didn't
go.
know a darn thing about learning and memory. So I realized we needed to take a reductionist approach, and I thought I would use a simple animal with a simple nervous system, simple behavior, and try to study that.
Enter Aplyssa californica, a giant sea slug with one of the simplest nervous systems in the animal kingdom.
One of the great giants in the field. Thought I was throwing my career away. In my naivete, I was confident that this would be right.
He thought if he could just isolate the cellular changes that occurred when Aplyssa learned simple tasks, it would be the key to understanding our memory.
Humans have neurons. Sea slugs have neurons. They're not that different.
You see this, Marvin?
At the level of DNA is not so terribly different. The same fundamental kinds of changes should underlie memory.
To test his.
Now hold on, because I want y'all to thanks to Amber Glow for the $20 super chat. I say some of the people, if you can instead of hitting the super chat, hit the cash apps, because you know the super chat, they take money out and they don't give it to you right away. But thank you anyway. We'll try to hit that cash app instead of the super chat. YouTube always want to take your damn money and shit. You know, they want to make money off of advertising and they want to take the money. This is the cash app right here. I put the cash app in. Thank you, Amber Glow. I want to type in this man Charles Rogers real fast. Give me a second. That's the cash app. Hold on, let me make sure I got the right name real quick, because it's important, because they're not going to tell you this. Zoologist. Damn, y'all got the name wrong. All right, hold on for a second. Marvin, you understand what I was just showing?
Mm-hmm.
All right, hold on. I'm trying to pull up.
All my video game heads out there, if y'all trying to keep up with the hype behind the virus, you might as well. If y'all locked in the house, you might as well grab that Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
That'll keep you your viral juices flowing.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Good game. Don't think it's worth $60, but it's still a good game. I feel like they could have gave us some more for $60.
Okay. My bad. Yeah. So let me leave off of here. I want to show y'all something real fast. What they're not going to tell you. Let this leave out real quick. Let's X this out. So that was important. Let's go here. Hold on for a second. 1 second. I want y'all to see something based off of what we just looked at.
That's right after the jumping jacks, Don Cato.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, for those who weren't here earlier, make sure you do something that requires some bouncing. If you like jumping on your bed, then hey, jump on your bed. If you like to do jumping jacks, do some jumping jacks. If you got a trampoline, use that. That'll really help push get your lymph nodes cleaned out. There's no pump in the lymph nodes, so you have to move your body to really get it. Some people who kind of have a slight dehydration, you'll probably notice if you got a lot of toxins in your system, the moment you start doing some rebounding and some jumping, you might get some immediate mucus, some discolored mucus to come popping up, into either your throat or your nose or something like that. Most people notice an immediate detox effect if they got stuff really in there.
Now you see this, right? You guys see this, right? Charles Henry Turner, a zoologist and scholar, was the first to discover insects could hear and alter behavior based off of previous experiences. Based off of previous experiences, altering behavior based off previous experiences will be memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a black man that was born in 1867. How come they didn't mention him in that? How come they didn't mention him in that video?
Don't want to. Can't contribute that stuff to us.
See, I like to when I'm teaching, I like to do things like I said in the 360 and bring it home because I know a lot of our people miss. I don't know a lot of our people miss a lot of stuff. Now this is the first African American zoologist, and he was the first, not the second, not the first black guy. He was the first person to discover that insects could hear and alter behavior based off of past experiences. This man did this shit. Not that fucking white man that they just showed talking about this guy is renowned and bullshit. They were studying this man right here. See what I'm saying? This is the stuff that we don't know. Hold on for a second. Let me go down. Trailblazing research, right? Trailblazing research. During his career, Turner published more than 70 research papers. He pioneered research techniques in the study of animal behavior and made several important discoveries that advanced our understanding of the natural world. Among
George, hold control and hit plus. They want you to get closer so they can see it. Get the husky letters on the screen. Yeah.
Trailblazing research. His career, Turner published more than 70 research papers. See, now I want you to understand, because see, Marvin, explain this to me. When an insect can hear, it can alter behavior based off of past experiences. He's altered his behavior based off the memory of experiences, right?
That's correct.
Well, we're talking about memory. So who was the first to do it?
There you go, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner.
So they want to give you Elon Musk and all these freaking names. And I'm telling black people, we was at the forefront of this technology already. It was us. We lost it. And they put us in the back. But that's why I gotta get back to my history of African American achievers again, man. I gotta come back out. I gotta come back strong, man. Among his most notable achievements, Turner was the first person to discover that insects can hear and alter behavior based off experiences. He showed that insects was capable of learning, illustrating in two of his famous research projects that honeybees can see color and recognize patterns. Now, let me ask you a question, Marvin. What they just had that man doing? Well, he was writing the pattern, right, in that video, when he was writing those stars.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he didn't remember what he was doing, but he was able to recognize the tests.
What was happening was his locomotion or his motor skills where it had a memory committed to it, even though his psychological disposition wasn't there. So it's almost kind of like like they said, it's like recent memory versus long-term memory. He didn't have the long-term memory, but when it comes to motor skills, like I'm an artist, like I do drawing and painting and all those things like that. Never lost my ability. The only thing I lose by not doing it for long periods of time is I might lose speed, but I don't lose precision. I don't do a lot of erasing. I just might do the picture slower. I would have to go a very long period of time of not doing it for my motor skills to suffer. But the memory behind it, I might not remember a lot of things in the past, but I tell you one thing, a trained hand that creates its own memory is steadier. It's just there. So they're saying there's two sides to what he had going on. The things he could think about and recall details of, he didn't have. But when he would make movements, for some reason, that memory was there.
And I'm going to tell you. Now look at this, right? Now look at this. He showed that insects was capable of learning, illustrating, and pattern. Honeybees can recognize color and recognize patterns. He conducted some of these experiments while working at Sumner without the benefit of research assistance in his fucking laboratory space. He did it on his own. So let me ask a question though. Did they just show a slug or some type of, they just showed some type of bug or some type of insect, right? What they were studying, right? How come this man wasn't mentioned? See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They didn't mention him. He was the one that taught the white people to do it. So what I'm trying to tell black people is we was already in these labs. So now when a white man walk in and he say some stuff, you don't even, like, you guys run it. Like, look at the numbers going down. Oh shit, he talking about a nigga and some stuff. Oh man, he ain't talking about the white man no more. Let's get out of here. But this is what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, when we get to this brain cognition and all the stuff that we do, we did this. They took it and trying to play God now. He took it because, remember, this was the 20s when he was doing this. And we were under oppression. And we were working in labs for white people. They didn't do this shit. We did it. They took the technology, put their names and faces on it, and said that they was the apex. So now you see this white man, and he trying to discover how we memorize in brains. Man, I'm showing you right here that he told you guys that insects can hear and alter behavior based off experiences. He did it. So now let's go to another white man who want to take credit for every goddamn thing. So now watch this, right? They study this technology off of the animals, and now Neuralink wants to put a chip inside human brains by 2020. Go ahead, Marvin, you can take this one.
2 years ago, Elon Musk launched a country. Start over. 2 years ago, Elon Musk launched a company called Neuralink. Musk already leads high-profile companies including Tesla, SpaceX, and Hyperloop. But Neuralink may be the 48-year-old entrepreneur's most ambitious plan yet, to surgically connect human brains with artificial intelligence through an ultra-high bandwidth brain-machine interface. Neuralink had so far remained silent regarding its research, but that changed last night when the San Francisco-based company live-streamed a progress report showcasing its experimental brain-machine interface, BMI system, which inserts sensor and electrodes into brains to connect neurons for data transfer. Just so y'all know, a machine has to connect the neurons. A human doesn't do it. Neuralink president Max Hodak says the company will start experiments with human subjects in 2020 and hopes to quickly leverage the BMI system to treat patients with brain diseases or spinal cord injuries. The ultimate goal of Neuralink, however, lies beyond disease treatment. Musk's dream was spawned by artificial intelligence, unprecedented progress over recent years and its potential for human cognitive enhancement toward the new superintelligence that people like futurist Ray Kurzweil believed is approaching. In 2018 interview with podcaster Joe Rogan, Musk said Neuralink will do this by symbiotically merging human brains with a super digital intelligence that will serve as a tertiary or four-part cognition layer, augmenting the human cortex and limbic systems.
What does that mean, Marvin?
So basically what's going to happen when they say symbiotically merging, it means putting them together. So think about the Terminator, but with human attached to it, or RoboCop, I guess.
So they want to genetically engineer the brain.
Right. So it's going to be part digital, part human. You control it with a digital interface, but you'll have access to what the digital interface has access to. So it says it'll have the limbic system and the human cortex lined up. So thought and locomotion will pretty much be one, but with the capability and speed of a human of a speedy computer. So basically, when you say to search for something on the internet and it has all these parameters under which to lock down the information you're looking for, you're going to have instant access to the information you're looking for, while at the same time making interpretations based on your own human perception. So it's a symbiotic relationship. Or if you guys want, go ahead and watch Venom, the movie, because that's symbiotic relationship. This thing is inside you, and you have moral and cognitive position over it, but locomotion in the case of that movie was based on the actual symbiote, or the thing that was kind of latched onto him. So 2-to-1 relationship, but in this case it says tertiary cognition. So human feeling, you got cortex, limbic system, computer, human. You got a 4-way thing kind of going on.
All right, let's push through. We got a couple more minutes.
Yep. Musk on artificial intelligence. If you can't beat it, join it.
Musk
proposes that humans today.
Real quick. If you can't beat what? How the fuck we? So
basically, what he's saying is, if in the current span of technology that they have artificial intelligence, you couldn't beat it. So if it says to let's say math is one of the greatest ways to do it. If they give you some hard ass 1,000 number half calculus, half this whatever equation, it's going to take you a long ass time to be able to get the answer versus that computer. Whereas if we instill the computer into you, we give your brain the capability of the computer.
Man, that's crazy. Now watch this here. Read this part. Watch this.
Musk proposes that humans today can already be regarded as cyborgs. Hold on for 1 second.
All right.
Oh, okay. I thought some shit came in. I saw something blow under the door and shit. I'm like, yo. All right. Thanks to cybernetic extensions such as smartphones and computers that enable us to gain knowledge, run quicker calculations, and generally expand our capabilities. Data transfer, however, remains a major bottleneck in the communication between humans and their digital devices. Although we have evolved interfaces from keyboards to mouses and now voice in order to speed up data transfer, Musk believes he can eliminate the bottleneck altogether with digital implants that read our minds. So basically, it moves backwards. So normally what happens is, if they try and, now remember, 4G, 5G, all that stuff, it's a pipe. You want to move more stuff through a pipe, you make the diameter bigger. But the problem is the diameter of placing a computer's information from across the world into your brain at any one time for you to be able to speak it and access it, the pipelines are not big enough to go into you. However, the computer has a big enough pipeline to pull data out of you and make determinations about the data you put in. So you give the computer data, it makes a determination, it feeds the end result back to you.
And another thing they're saying is basically all this stuff as far as with calculations, run quicker calculations, expand capabilities, data transfer. If they allow them to put these digital chips in you, they can do it all without you having to actually. They can do it all from the mind, actually, without you actually having to physically do it.
Yeah. So whatever you put your mind to, it's like advancing that whole whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish. So you don't want to know how to jump, and the computer you know, let's say you say, I want to know everything. The computer is not going to be able to download everything into you at the moment you need it without frying your damn brain. However, as you make a thought and say, I want to be able to jump, the computer can immediately bottleneck only the information based on that thought into you. So you're performing a feat, within the capabilities of your current human body. Now, if they want you to be able to like have the mindset of a person who can jump 10 feet high, that's fine. But they're going to have to augment and put more biological technology into you to be able to withstand the pressure that you're going to put on your body. So that's a whole nother piece that's got to be added on. And this is why you want to be able to only use the human brain. They're trying to only keep the brain. The rest of that shit, they rather throw out. They can give you electronic eyes that can see. It can see, right now, you probably good to see at the most, depending on the size of the letters, maybe a block ahead. They're going to make it so that your eyes will be able to focus in based on what your brain naturally does. Perhaps you can see a mile ahead. You can see a threat coming a mile, 2 miles off.
Yep.
Because it makes the eyes capable of doing that. You can punch through a wall because they're going to make your fucking body parts made of some crazy amounts of steel.
That's Bloodshot. That's the movie Bloodshot. Let's get two more paragraphs before we get out of here.
Okay. Inside the Neuralink BMI system, Neuralink's BMI system consists of 3 main components: ultra-thin threads to allow them to go into that microenvironment, a sort of robotic sewing machine. That's the part where I told y'all a robot has to put it in. A human doesn't do it because it's very precise. And sensors, to be able to pick up the data. Must-brain machine implants synthetic threads of 4 to 6 in width. Very small, about 1/4 the diameter of a human hair. These threads have electrodes that receive and transfer information from neurons in brains to dedicated sensors connected to the outside digital world. In their experiments, Neuralink researchers have already implanted 96 threads with 32 electrodes each. That's 3,072 electrodes in primate brains. Because even experienced human surgeons lack dexterity required to insert such thin and flexible threads in the brains, Neuralink has developed sophisticated robotic electrode inserter comprising a loaded needle pincher cartridge, low force contact brain position sensor, light modules, needle motor, and multiple cameras. So there you go. And there's a picture of it. The actual computer will do it for you. Like I said, a human can't do it. Neuralink isn't the first entity to design a brain implant system. In 2006, Brown University researchers proposed BrainGate to help patients who have lost control of their limbs and other bodily functions due to conditions such as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. BrainGate consists of sensor implanted in the brain known as the Utah array, which consists of 100 electrodes that can receive signals firing in specific areas of the brain. Compared to BrainGate, the Neuralink BMI system uses many more electrodes for data transfer and is made of materials that are better matched to the properties of human brain tissues, so promises better compatibility and durability. It's kind of like when you used to get metal in your teeth, and now you get.
What's funny? What's funny? When we're not distracted by all of this stuff, everything that they're doing now with this so-called technology, we're already able to do it. You do it in your dreams. You do it when you have daydreaming. Or you say, I've been here before. What they call it, deja vu. We already do all of this stuff already. The reason why we can't access it because we're distracted by everything.
Yeah, there's an organic nature of nature has stuff that we have long forgot about and haven't been taught because that's a part of the advent of the new digital world. There is already organic materials that mesh well with us to unlock parts of our body that we don't know how to use. You just have to be in the right environment. They're messing with the environment so you can't get the results. So therefore, it's pseudo, it's not possible. But when you start seeing things in nature, when you start studying crystals, rocks, and different things with different properties, your whole expansion, like Tesla had such a different viewpoint of the world because he saw what materials in the world can do. He said, yo, you ain't got to have all these different electrical grids and shit going around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ground a copper rod into the earth and lock it in at the earth's natural resonant frequency, which is, I think, about 7 or 8 kilohertz. And once I can lock you into that and lock the world into that frequency, you don't have all these crazy harmonics and stuff crossing outside of the way the nature already works. And you don't have to worry about the dangers of electricity. That he said there won't be nothing that humans won't be able to put their mind to and can't do.
All right. And you know what they're doing? They're trying to get us instead of going within ourselves, they're trying to get us to look for something outside of ourselves for and to create what they said, half man, half robot, where man has already have the ability to do all of these different things if he doesn't have the distraction.
And the ancients told us that all the time. They was like, everything said, look within, because as within, so without, as above, so below. We stopped looking within because we weren't taught properly how. It was taken away from us.
Brain.
And by taking that away from us, we started, people started shelling outside forces into us. And, after a while, seeing starts to become believing. Like, I've been trying for years to do this and that. You don't realize somebody's stopping you from doing it. So after a while, you give up. They present what you're looking for in a different way. And you say, well, that's the real deal. That's the real solution.
But you know what I see with this? They hook this up to your brain now. Whatever signals that your natural brain sends, it picks it up and puts it into the computer. So now they can actually steal from you and create this artificial intelligence based off of these chips being inside your brain.
Which is what Terminator was based on. It can become a learning computer.
Yeah, because they can't.
True cognition, that's a problem.
Yeah, because what I'm saying is right now, right, any type of emotion that I get, whether I'm sad, if my son come running down the steps and I turn around and say, shh, without the chip in my brain, they can study every aspect of me with the chip in my brain now.
Mm-hmm.
So they can study when I'm horny, they can study when I'm sad, they actually create sciences off of that.
And what's that good? In business, what's that good for?
Say again?
If you had your own business, what would you see that being good for? Advertisement.
Right.
Because now every time you think something, think about it. Right now, everything you search for pops up in your advertisement. Notice our advertisements, you're scrolling through this study right now. Your advertisements on the side are different than mine. Right. It's because of what we naturally search for. That's what big data was. All the early 2000s and late 1990s, that was big data. That was your chance, if you were in the end game, to find a way to create a system that picks up what people do on the internet. You ever see those little games going around the internet where they say, take the first initial of your first name and the first initial of your last name and see what the name of your weapon of mass destruction will be. And for some reason, like my name is Marvin Burwell, so the M turns out to be a hammer, and when I look up B, it's a flaming torch. So my weapon of mass destruction is an axe with a flaming torch on it, and it's just a little stupid game you play on Instagram. That's data mining. It says, how do you think about certain things, and they apply that to one big gigantic base of data collection about how people think in certain situations.
So let me ask you, so all they really doing is studying the subconscious mind, which records all the information. Mm-hmm. They want to take your subconscious mind and upload it into a computer.
Right.
They want to get it to that chip, which is connected to a computer base somewhere.
But dig this. They don't have to anything new is always being uploaded, but everything that we already know about, like even this article, is already uploaded. That's what we call Windows 99, Windows 2000, 2001, XL, XP. That's just taking data that already existed, and without having to recode it and rewrite the whole thing again, we're adding on to it. Once we have enough data about how people think, what they look at, advertisements, businesses, and just general fact and truth that people are putting out, period. Because remember, they're allowing you to put everything out, just not in certain locations.
But you got to remember,
when the cyborgs are created, all you have to do is upload the cyborg to a computer. You don't have to program it. Just upload the database you already created.
But what they're doing with us right now, before they get full cyborg, right now they put information out and they judge you based off of your responses to certain things. Mm-hmm. Without it. Once they put that chip in you, they don't have to do that no more because now they have a big database where they already know how you're thinking, what you're thinking, when you're going to do it. They basically, you remember, what's that movie that came out a couple years back where they knew if you was going to commit a crime before you did it, they would come arrest you. It had
that was the John with what's the famous actor on there?
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise was on it. Yeah,
they had Tom Cruise in there, and they knew. See, but this is what it is. Because they had no way of knowing you was going to do something. These people was already chipped up.
Yep.
So now they would come get you like we going to rob a bank. Fuck that. Or I feel like killing my wife. They come.
You just really said something there, because what if deja vu is in our minds and we can't tap it? If they map our brain, they can find it. If one day you're gonna probably see it as something like that. Yeah, Minority Report is the movie.
Minority Report.
you're going to see something like this in the future. They're going to be like, scientists find hidden section of the brain with futuristic or past cognition, possibly from another life. That's what the article may. Now it'll be years from now, but that's what the article would look like. And that article is going to be like, scientists are excited. They found something that might connect us to the past and the future. And you're going to see what you saw in Minority Report. Scientists may be able to detect possible crimes before it even happens. That'll be a quote inside the article.
Yeah. And see, we got to understand, right now, they put propaganda out and they can basically dictate how we're going to respond. Once we be stupid enough to get these chips put in our brain, they can kill you with just by turning your brain off.
They can do that already with the current frequencies. That's what that 1967 study in the military about radiology, radiation fields. That's how we learned that every frequency can be tuned in a way that can cause one of 5 things: depression, stupor, anger, and there was 2 others. I can't remember the 2 others, but they can already do that with the frequencies. And a lot of people.
I'm with you. And they use sonar and all that stuff to kill whales and shit.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but my thing is, once you get this individual chip in you, they can just kill George. Bang.
Yeah.
Like, George, you know what? George is Black Power, man. He talking about, man, we gonna roll against the government. And I can prove it to you. When you watch the movie Demolition Man, when Simon Phoenix went to kill that the leader that was running the town, he went to shoot him. He couldn't shoot him.
Right.
Because he was programmed to not be able to. But everybody that was underground was not chipped up. That's why they couldn't get no food. They was stealing food. They was dirty. They was eating rat shit.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. Guess what I found out when I was checking out some new 5G information yesterday? It might not be new info, but for me, it was new. They said that the millimeter wave. Okay, so some locations are going to have the strongest towers. They can reach that 100 gigahertz, right? Whereas a lot of people are kind of staying in the lower gigahertz. They want the cheaper, satellite tower. But what I found out is they said the millimeter wave bandwidth, which is in that that 30 to 300. I'm sorry, the 2.4 to 100 gigahertz range. If you get too close to the tower, it has a way of shutting off the mechanism between the tower and the phone from producing a signal, because they know that the signal will be so strong it can harm you. They had to put technology in there, and there's an article flying around about it saying that Motorola's 5G technology has it in their booklet. It tells you that, when you get too close to the millimeter towers, the signal's so strong it could harm you. So we put something inside the machinery to shut off the actual connection if you get too close.
Oh, we'll have to do a stream when they want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But I want you guys to understand something. This says they plan to do this by 2020. They already got the chips in hands and all these different things. So you get the chip put inside your brain, you're done. They got you. And they're gonna find ways. They're gonna find ways to promote it. But this is already, so all the Black Power, all the people that fight fascist groups around the world, you ain't gonna be able to do no fighting. They're gonna have you.
Yep. And they can't with this tech. This technology could only come out in a unified world, which is what UN Agenda 2030 was about. If you don't unify the powers around the world, they'll be spending so much time looking at the damage this technology can do versus the amount of the type of society they're trying to build and control.
That's why they put the fear out here for us to unify under one accord and say we need each other. Then the government come out and give you whatever you want, and while they give you whatever you want, they taking away all your civil liberties. It's being done right in front of your face. So let me share the screen because we got to get out of here.
I would say that y'all need to get your children. If you don't have the time, because you got to do what you got to do to keep your children cool and all that like that, use whatever time you got, but you should get your children in STEM. When me and George are talking about the urban nerds, it's going to be very important. Now, if we wind up having to front run it because no one else is doing it, fine. We're going to be in that cycle regardless. But we got to get in there because we got to know what enemy we're battling. I could talk to you guys about connections all day that I know are true, but we need to be able to physically get materials and we need to be able to come on stream with y'all and say, look at this. And instead of showing you someone else's study, we can show you look what happens when I take a piece of tissue from this little bug or mouse or whatever like that, and I put it next to this magnet with an electrode shot through it. Watch what it does, and I should be able to explain it to you in real time. We're trying to get there. So get your children in the game while their brains are not conditioned.
All right, so let's do this because I gotta go get the wife. Tomorrow, I'm forcing I'm forcing Marvin. Marvin did an awesome presentation, man, like a 3-hour presentation 2 months ago, man, down here in Philadelphia, man. I'm gonna try to, once all this is over, I'm gonna try to put together something where we can get people to come up where he can do it again. Try to get it.
I can tomorrow. I can do one tomorrow, and I'm gonna chop some of the formalities out of it, and I'm gonna give you all the stuff that's relevant to what we were talking about, so you'll have a base knowledge coming up to where we are.
Yeah. So I'll have Marvin's Cash App set up on my joint, so you guys can Cash App Marvin, because when we go live tomorrow, it's gonna be his show, and he's gonna go live and talk about these things. So look forward. We're gonna go behind the scenes and get a name for it, and we create the show.
So let all your peoples know that we're gonna be going on, because remember, the stream tomorrow is gonna be, for some of you guys, not a lot of it's gonna be new, but some of it will be in terms of how it's put together. But for a lot of people out there who y'all know who are trying to like play catch up, they don't want to get in it because it's too deep already, and they're trying to play catch up. It's great for those people. So we hitting at the same time tomorrow, George, or do you got a different schedule tomorrow?
No, we won't hit. You know, this our time slot. We gonna hit them in the morning. And you gonna run the show. I'm gonna be muted. I'm not in the show tomorrow. That's all. This is all you tomorrow.
Okay, so you guys are gonna you'll just be there because you'll have to share my screen since we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys let people know that we're gonna go live tomorrow. Have them come in the building, check it out, grab what they need to grab. I'm gonna give you the stuff that's necessary for you guys to really be in the game. Okay. And of course, I like to break these difficult things down to a level where you can understand it. So I want you to be able to walk away saying, if I choose a certain section that I want to be able to really get down and get in the game with my children and stuff, you'll know the direction you need to head in.
Yep. All right. So as we close out, I gotta go pick up the wife. Remember, I love my people more than they hate themselves. And I pray to the universal creator most high that these words is enough to inspire you. These words are enough to make you look at yourself in the mirror and make change. These words are enough to make you look at your children and know you have to make change. I hope that when you came here for information. And when you leave here greater than what you was before you came. You leave here edified.
11 o'clock, Amber. 11 o'clock. It should be the starting time. 10:45, between 10:45 and 11.
Yeah, I hope that you share this information. I hope that you share this information with your family, you know, while we're going through these trying times. I hope that you send this video out, put it on your channels. If you have a channel, put it on your Twitter, put it on your Facebook, send it out everywhere. We're trying to get this information out. For some of you guys, if you got information on how we can go live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time off of this, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. I'm gonna put my email in the chat so you guys can maybe email me and assist us on how to do it, because we want to expand this information. As we begin to expand the urban nerds, we're going to be expanding this information because we're trying to push things forward, man. So remember, I love y'all. To the next time, peace. Look forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10:45 is the Marvin Health and Art Show. Peace.